All right, here we go. Internet's been working all week, so let's hopefully it'll stay up. I mean, haven't had any issues this week, so if it goes out, you know they listening. All right, so it's good to be back. I didn't go live last week, obviously, because my father has been in the hospital, and I want to thank everybody for the thoughts and the prayers. I thought it was cool to tell that little story, though, that you saw on the post about the guy who had just had the baby. Not him, but obviously his wife. So got to be specific these days. Wow, what a world we live in, right? Got to be specific about that. But anyway, thought I'd go live, and it's kind of a cool day today, because today my grandpa would have been 98 years old, one of them. And yeah, you start thinking about life, and you think about all the things all the people that's going on, and all the birthdays and Christmases that you miss. But anyways, thought I'd give a little shout out there. There was someone who wrote in and said that they didn't really care for the me who was all up in arms all the time. And I'm like, well, that's not really me all the time. It's just when people want to say that none of this is true, it's all hogwash and that's the only reason I get up in arms. So, but they did say, hey, we like the cool, calm, collective you. And I'm like, first off, I've always been cool, calm, and collective. But sometimes you got to have a little oomph behind everything. Because again, Johnny Cash had a song in the 70s called What Is Truth? If he had a song in 1971 called What Is Truth? Good Lord, look at where we are today. So, I know there's people out there that keep throwing crumbs at you, right? And they'll string you along. They'll give you just enough to keep you holding on, and then the next week, or they'll say, oh, there's something big coming, y'all better get... I don't do that, all right? So, there is a unique special operation going on right now. That laws and orders outline that. So you either want to know the laws and the orders of the military and federal, or you don't. It is that simple. There are a lot of rabbit holes you can go down all over the board. Some of it matters, some of it doesn't. Right now you're going through a revolution. We got to reset history. We got to reset the foundation. We have to have a solid foundation to stand on. So a lot of people out there are still talking about rabbit holes that they matter in one way, but they don't in the bigger picture. In the bigger picture, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, you're not going to remember little things. You're going to remember the big, the triumphs. That's what you're going to remember. All right. So a lot of you got to keep that in mind, because I still see comments and I see messages that show that too many people are still, and I'm going to leave that up to whoever's listening. Only you know if that's you or not. So that's why some people don't watch me the way they should. If it hits a nerve, it may have needed to hit a nerve. Again, only you know who you are. But I speak always as if someone brand new is listening, because that's a warrior mentality. All right, that's in warrior ethos of military. All right, and that's why a lot of people don't understand that, because they never were in the military. You don't leave a fallen comrade. It don't matter if they're kicking you, cussing you, yelling at you, screaming at you, calling you every name under the sun. It doesn't matter. They don't know that they don't know. All right, but if they're savable, then you still got to give them an opportunity to be saved. All right, so some people have that mentality, some people don't. All right, when I get up in my chest, it's because I'm passionate about this. It's not because I'm mad at you, because I don't know some of you out there. I know some of you, but I don't know all of you. All right, so I'm not mad at you. But when you say this is hogwash, when you say this is nonsense, when you say this is all BS, when you use negative energy and negative comments like that, then that's when I do have to get up in arms in another manner, because all I'm doing is honoring every man and woman who's fallen in this uniform. All right. Not all veterans know what's going on right now. This ain't a veteran movement only. All right. This is a world revolution. All right. You're watching a great awakening. All right. All the people out there, I've seen them all over my Facebook, not necessarily on my business pages, but on my personal. I've been deleting a lot of people off my personal Facebook. I have one personal Facebook. I've been deleting people. They call him President Trump the Antichrist. You don't know anything. Most people don't even know enough of the Bible to even know like just your simple things of the Bible. But if you're calling President Trump the Antichrist, you hadn't read much of anything what's going on right now. The polar opposite of that. All right. Plus, he don't have the bloodline. So there's a lot of things. So we're in a humorous part of this operation, but we're also in a serious part of this. We're in a discernment always. It's always discernment 101. All right. So a lot of people are still following commenters. Some people will see a comment in the comment box and they'll go, oh, I agree with that. No, if you don't know what's going on currently with laws and orders, all right, and you haven't been following this whole time, and you also don't know how to look at the 40,000-foot view, but also come down to the ground level and then get into the intricacies. If your intricacies are rabbit holing this and that, and JFK Jr.'s in the behind the scenes, he's calling all the shots, and da-da-da-da. If you're operating like that, you're not in the real world. All right, so you got to get into the real world. You got to look at what President Trump's operating with and quit thinking that, he's back there and JFK Jr.'s in his ear saying, hey, do this right here, do that. You got to quit doing that. Y'all got to get in the real world. All right. So I don't do that. I don't do what others do. So anybody who lumps me in with everybody else, you obviously don't know me that well. You don't know me that well. All right. Because I'm operating with what President Trump's operating with. Plain and simple. That's why I was allowed to do certain things. That's why I've been invited down there. That's why I've been in photos with him. He re-truthed something this week that I've been truthing for a while now. All right. So, it's not going to say President Trump re-truthed Derek Jonhson yet because, again, this is an operation. If you don't seek to understand how military laws pair with federal, you can have half the picture with federal, but if you don't know the military portion, you're still going to be lost. I saw some comments on a person who was a friend of mine on my personal page, don't know them, and I sent them a message. I said, hey, there's no reason for you to be on my personal page if you're not going to show people that, hey, some of us are in position. Some of us have been put in these positions. All right. A lot of Americans right now want to be the one who totes the news. They want to be the ones, I said that first. That was me. I said that. I'm the one that broke that. And they don't know anything on the front. It was a regurgitation. And that's another problem. So there's so much noise and so much chaos and so much confusion. If people would look from the top down, I know my place. I never get ahead of President Trump. I never, from the standpoint of, he should do that. No, he's the commander. He's the face. He's the supreme commander. He's the military governor. All right. And we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But until you, whoever you are out there listening, until you put it into perspective and in the order of which you fall in, until then, there's going to be chaos. There's going to be confusion. There's going to be toters and there's going to be regurgitators. And until you have the respect of that someone just might be smarter than you and know more than you, until you accept that. So don't be that person. Because when you confuse someone else out there because you can't say it the way it's supposed to be said and the way it is actually happening, when you push someone else, it's kind of like the Bible says, their blood's on your hands. And when you push someone far away because you can't say it the right way, all because you were being selfish and you didn't want to say, hey, I can't say it, but this guy right here, he does this, that, this. Because the worst thing we got ahead of us, the worst part that we have ahead of us, the only bad part we have left are who's going to maintain and sustain this. Most everybody who's awake right now are 45 years old and older. No offense to you out there if you're 30 or 25 and you're listening, but you're a rarity. You're in the tiny percentile. All right. We don't have college kids who are interested in laws and orders the correct way. We don't have it because there's a ton of laws and orders. There's a ton of different kind of laws and orders. All right. But what is operating right now, it's all public information. It's not secretive. All right. However, where we are right now, April 13th, 2020, where we are right now, anybody who's picking up brand new right now and acting like they knew the whole time, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. All right, because some of us have been doing this long before we even have platforms. All right, and our friends and family know that. All right, so that's where it's dangerous. And it seems to be, history has shown, and history repeats itself, it's always the regurgitators who get the positions. Because people do, and no offense to the person who said that, but people do tend to gravitate to the ones who look better, got a better background, got the fancy graphics and this, that. They tend to float to that because that's some kind of entitlement, or it looks more quote unquote professional. All right. They tend to go to the people who are more brushed up in their language and their verbiage and their vernacular and all the context. Like, people tend to go to that. But it ain't always those who knows what's going on the front of it. You want the problem solvers on the front that's going to lead you through the desert. You want the problem solvers on the front that's going to pull you out of the miry ashes or whatever it is you're in, the fire, whatever it is, your emotion. That's what you want, and that's who you want. So, again, I preface all this because where we are right now, some of the comments out there and some of the people who are jumping ship, a lot of the comments are either President Trump's the Antichrist or President Trump is just one of them. And these are mainly patriots now, quote unquote, and Republicans, conservatives saying this. There's three different things I'm seeing the most. President Trump's the Antichrist. He's one of them. And the other one is, I haven't seen anything. Oh, I don't, y'all just keep saying it. You just keep saying, no, I don't say anything's coming. I've never told you a date. I've never told you any kind of prediction, nothing like that. I don't operate like that. I operate in the real world. I operate with the laws and orders that President Trump's working with. All right. They're all public. Again, I have to say that over and over. They're all public. All right. What we lack in America is initiative, and we have too many people, like the birds in the nest I always show, the little graphic every so often. You want to be spoon-fed. You want it to be laid out just as simple, like a fillet. That's why so many people are watching too many people. You're going to this page and that page and this page and that page and this face and this face and that name, and you think there's going to be some new material there. There's not. All right, the foundational orders that President Trump's working with is like a broken freaking record. Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. It's like a broken record. And once you learn that, you got it. You got it whipped. It's it. It's that simple. It really is that simple. I have a friend who picks on me all the time because I say that all the time. It's that simple. But it really is that simple. If you'll learn the foundational orders, they're there. They haven't changed. They're still there. That's why when people say, you're crazy, you're an idiot, you're this, you're that, you're a conspiracy theorist, when they call you names, you can just smile with a you know what kind of grin on your face and say, the law ain't changed. The order ain't changed. It's still right there. Now, you don't have to like it. That's another thing. You don't have to like it. That's fine. You can abhor it. You can hate it. You can loathe it. But it ain't changed. That's what they're working with. I love that little meme of the little girl where she's going like, I don't know what to tell you, Jose, but it ain't changed. That's how the military works. That's how military operations. That is the federal law. That's what's in place. So, I got my notes up. I brought some notes today. We're going to stay on track here. Because I like to do what President Trump calls the weave. I like doing the weave. All right. So, people don't, when people say that out there to you, because I know I'm speaking your frustrations. I know my followers. And I see I know the good followers, and I know the good commenters, and I know the good messages. I'm speaking your frustrations because it's there. All right. If people would just read and study, it's that simple. Just read this and study this. Divorce your emotions, divorce your feelings, divorce what you think you've known all these years. Put that aside for a moment and just take it like a challenge and go, okay, look, if you think I'm wrong so much, then in order to prove me, quote unquote, wrong, which I'm not, but in order to prove me wrong, you got to work with what I'm working with. You got to read what I'm reading. You got to study what I'm studying. You have to know what I know in order to, quote unquote, debunk or prove me wrong. So when you try to debunk or prove someone wrong and you're not operating what they're operating with, all you want is attention. And today we call those attention whores. All right, I'm not going to code around it or sugarcoat it. That's exactly all it is. Either you're a narcissist and/or an attention whore. All right, you just want someone to argue with or whatever it is. All right, and we're past those days. We're past that. All right, so you can't see anything. The people out there say, I haven't seen anything. When's the big day coming? You're listening to the wrong people. You're listening to the wrong people. If you think there's just going to be this day that the whole world stops, like the Waylon Jennings song, stop the world and let me off. I'm tired of spinning round and round. If you think there's going to be a day that the whole world just stops and President Trump comes out and says, all right, here's the Dead Sea Scrolls that's like 47 miles long, and here's what's taken place the last 247 million days. All right, here they are. Enjoy. It ain't going to work like that. It's been a rolling operation. And the people who get it. All right. Now, you can go back and backtrack your way from 2015 to present day. You can. But you still got to operate with what we're operating with. Laws and orders. That's why I have #1 best-selling books. That's the only reason I have them. It's because I'm the only person who have taken all the military laws and orders and federal laws and orders and put them in one place. You're not going to find them in one place when you start Googling. All right, so that's what makes me unique and different. All right, and again, I'm living through my grandfathers. I'm living through my great uncles. I'm living through my relatives who served years ago. My great grandfather was a World War I veteran. All right, so I'm living through all of my lineage because I listened to my father. I listened to my grandfathers. I listened to my great uncles. I listened to all of my family members. All right, this is not me operating just with my service alone. I'm operating through all of my friends, all of them. All right, all of their experiences, all of the law, everything combined and put it together, and then I listen to them, and now I'm delivering to you the people. All right, but see, they listen to whom? They listen to their superiors. They listen to their dad. They listen to their uncle. They listen to their great uncles. They listen to their great grandfathers. They listen too. So see, that's how this works. You got to remember, everybody's spoiled to social media, but there was a day in my lifetime we didn't have social media. Me, myself, and I. All right, so everything had to be done what? Written down and recorded in history. All right, that's why President Trump is telling everybody, you got to be careful what you read. All right, there's certain things that don't need to be published, which is part of your 1798 Aliens Act. See, there's another portion of that act that was passed in 1798 that they abolished in 1800. But it's very key to keep in mind. When the Supreme Court upheld that just recently, they upheld the 1798 portion, not the 1800 portion. The 1798 portion talks about the Aliens Act and also the Seditions Act. The Seditions Act part of it was where back in 1798 with our founders, you got to keep in mind that's our founders. Our founders wrote this. Our founders said you can't publish anything that talks about the federal government. Well, see, the federal government back then was a lot more pure than what you've seen in the last 60 years. All right, but that was our founders saying, nope, it's a criminal penalty. If you write something that goes against the federal government that's false information or false anything, you could get penalized. It was a criminal penalty. So see, that's why right now where we are is very crucial of who you're listening to. And I'm going to tell you what, 99.9999999999999% of the ones out there flapping their gums don't need to be on talking about what's going on right now. They don't. And I know there's good people out there, and I know that some of them have good hearts. But until you know that everything currently that President Trump is working with, current and invoked laws and orders, are all outlined a special operation, military government, military occupation, continuity government, continuity of operation, all unconventional warfare. It's unconventional for a reason, because most Americans, 68, here's my number everybody used to remember me talk about, 68% of Americans can't even name the three branches of government. Just name the three branches of government. So the same people who cannot name the three branches of government want to have an intellectual conversation with me about what's going on right now. Everybody wants an opinion on what's going on right now, but they can't even name the three branches of government. It don't work like that. All right. 54% of Americans read and comprehend at a 6th grade education and below. But they want to have a conversation with me, and all I can retain up here? Now, that's not me bragging about my capabilities. See, somebody out there would take that as, oh, you're bragging about your capabilities. You're bragging about being smarter. No, I'm not bragging. I'm laying out saying, hey, look, if you think this is hogwash, BS, malarkey, and all other kind of words out there, but you can't name the three branches of government, and your educational level is at a 6th grade education and below, you can't have a conversation with me. You can't have a logical, intellectual conversation and comprehend what is taking place. Now, you should be able to, but see what normally gets in the way, that should be able to, guess what the factor is that gets in the way? Pride. They let their pride get in the way. Then they say, well, my dad never taught me that. My uncle was a colonel. My grandfather was a general. I've never heard that before. Did you ever have those conversations with your grandpa? But see, you can't have those conversations with your grandpa because this is a different operation with different laws and orders invoked. All right, so it doesn't matter the conversation you have with your grandpa if your grandpa never knew about government and exiles, puppet states, puppet governments, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare. It's unconventional for a reason, because they knew the average American had no clue what was going on. They knew the average American don't know who the wolves are. You don't know who the wolves in sheep's clothing are. Those are the worst ones. The ones who look like you, talk like you, but ain't you. The ones who could get you out in the field and say, hey, drink this Kool-Aid. It's good for you. Yeah. The ones who get you out in Waco, Texas, in a compound, have you worshiping the ground that they walk on. Yeah, that. So you can't know what you're looking at if you don't have the material and the foundation. And that's part of Americans' problems. Everybody wants to build a bear, grab a straw here, grab this and grab that. You remember that old game on TV where you get a grocery cart and you'd have to run through and you pick up what you got to get certain things. That's what Americans look like. And then if you said, hey, I want you to get the same items that the last person just got. Woo! Boy, that would have been a fun game. All right, so let me tell you something else. Now, I always shout out this for a reason. But it's not because of any other reason. Like some people, like I said, you got all kinds out there. They got their comments. But, ladies, I'm going to plug my computer up here. Ladies, where you at, ladies? Now, Facebook gives you an option to go on and look at your numbers and get a good, read or statistics on who's following you. All right, and what that demographic looks like. Instagram is kind of the same way because obviously Facebook owns Instagram or vice versa. But guys, hate to tell you, but women ladies, gay women, Buddhist women, all kinds of different kind of women. Not just old white women and Christian white women. No, all kinds of women follow me and support me. And I would go on the limb to say that women have given me the #1 bestseller. Women have. Females have. Because, again, when you tell a female, this is the fun part, when you tell a female, when a guy tells a female, that's a fact, that's like a polar bear walking on thin ice. When you tell a woman that that's a fact, that's a polar bear walking on thin ice. Because what the woman's going to do, men, in case you hadn't noticed and taken notes in your lifetime, when you tell a woman that's a fact, guess what the woman's going to do? The woman's going to go, well, we're going to see about that. And they're going to see about that. They're going to dig and dig and dig. And they're going to go from corner to corner, up, down, backwards, diagonal. They're going to get a magnifying glass. They're going to go, it's going to be what the old saying, a fine-tooth comb. They're going to fine-tooth comb it unto Pluto and back. Because women, God gave women the ability to hold 2 babies in their arms, get 5 pots on the stove, all right, go out and wash the truck at the same time, all right, go out and check the mail, come back in and flip the pot around, all right, and then the baby got 2 bottles like this, all right, and women can do a lot of things at one time. So you see where I'm going with that, guys? They got multitasking skills like nobody's business, which means they can retain a lot of information, and then they can see it all, and they can compartmentalize it, and then they can, when they compartmentalize it, then they can look at it like this, or however they want to look at it. They can look at it side. If I was wrong about something, I would not have a platform because, again, most of my followers are females. They wouldn't still be here. See, guys, and see, when you let pride get in the way, what's the Bible say about pride? Pride coming before the fall. All right? So when you let pride get in your way of truth, real truth, not diluted what the world has given you, not diluted what the career politicians have given you in the confusion and the chaos. When the rubber meets the road, when it just boils down to it, until you get frustrated, mad, bitter, angry, whatever the term, until you get to a place where you absolutely want to know, that's where you got to be to go, you know what? There's got to be an answer to all this. There's got to be a plan. There's got to be something in place. There's no way an outsider like President Trump would have been able to walk in all these years and do this just as a normal president. There's no way. There's no way, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way whatsoever. Because of how deep it was and how deep the swamp was and how deep it... And even President Trump told you. See, he's not prideful. This is where you got to listen to the man. Don't just hear him. Listen to him. He told you a couple years ago, he said, even I didn't realize how deep the swamp actually was. All right, that's not pride. That's a man telling you, hey, I know a lot of things, but I didn't know how deep they actually were. All right, so you got to listen to the man. All right, because military is the only way they could overthrow the government and it be lawful. If it were a group of people, an individual, etc., if they didn't have military law backing them, then it would be a seditious activity, all right, outlined in laws and orders. All right, it would be sedition. So when you know the definition of military law, but military occupations, and also all the different kinds of unconventional warfare, which I pulled it up. I know it like the back of my eyelids, but I'm going to read it. That way you can know it's there. All you got to do is go to SOCOM. So it stands for Southern Command, but SOCOM, SOCOM.mil/about/core dash, the dash matters, activities. Enter. It's going to come to the Special Operations Command. I got the Southern Command in my head because I'm going to talk about that later. The Special Operations Command official page, the About Me page. And it talks about all the different kinds of core activities. All right, but we're going to roll down here to unconventional warfare definition. Unconventional warfare. Actions to enable a resistance movement or insurgency to coerce, disrupt, or overthrow a government or occupying power. It's that simple. All right. So there's validation everywhere. And we're going to get into that right now. All right. But here's the thing that you got to know straight out the gate. This is kind of a back to the basics video. What President Trump had to do, and it's already been done. So this is not, what he should do. No. Listen to the words. What he had to do. And what they, the military, had to do. In the first 4 years, so real quick, I saw some comments earlier that led me to what I was saying earlier in the video about someone that was following my personal page. And they had some commenters on one of their things saying that, President Trump, that don't make sense that he was still president and he couldn't still be president. And plus his policies don't align from 2017 to 2021 with 2021 to 2025. It has nothing to do with anything. See, that's people who don't know that they don't know. And they also don't have the proper person to show them. And or the initiative to pair with the person who shows them to go read and study and go, yes, there is a way a president can still be a president in an unconventional warfare, government in exile, military government. Yes, there is. It's already been done before. It's been done differently, but it's already been done before. All right? And I'm the only one who's talked about this tactic. Now, you think about all the talking heads out there and all the moving lips and all the faces. I'm the only person who's talked about puppet governments and puppet states. All right? That's something my grandfather loved about World War II. You know, the war is already bad enough, but if there's something to take out of it, were the tactics that they used. Puppet states. All right, so I preface that to say this, is that, again, there is a way for a president to expand his power and or go into a military government. That's what makes this whole operation so different. But for the average American, for the average person out there, what President Trump and the military had to do, there's two different kind of scenarios I'm painting here first. All right, the operation itself and then also just straight up laws and orders. All right, the first things first, your foundation has to be on laws and orders. The moment you deviate from that, then there's a loophole. And that loophole then does what? It removes all credibility and integrity. All right. So that's why it had to be done this way. When people say, well, why would they do this? And why would they let the economy go to hell? And why would they let people die? And why? You're a negative Nancy and you're not living in the real world. All right. President Trump didn't crash the economy. All right. President Trump didn't do that. You have lived through a psyop for the last 60 years by the deep state and the global alliance who flipped everything on you and they robbed everything. They took everything and they dangled Republicans and Democrats around all down here throwing you crumbs all these years and pitted everybody against each other on religion, race, and politics. Our core values, they flipped on everybody. All right, so you were already there. So unless someone came in with a very, very strategic and unique plan that knows how to flip that and says, all right, enough is enough, then it was just going to keep doing that. So if you'll embrace the suck, as the military talks about, if you'll embrace the suck and shut up lovingly, for the people out there that love the cool, calm, collected me, if you'll shut up lovingly and realize the operation has a strategic and unique plan, it was going to have to happen anyway. See, if you'll embrace that and realize that you have two alternatives. You either have someone who knows how to come in and say, all right, we got a plan. Here's how we're going to do it lawfully with a foundation and not losing the integrity and not losing the foundation and not losing the principles behind that. Because if it's about winning people over into the good side, the good being everybody, then you can't lose that foundation. You cannot lose the principles and the values. You can't do it. You can't lose the integrity. All right. So your other alternative was to keep going with the same crap you always had. So do you want that? Is that what you want? So for all of you out there, the negative Nancy's and the people out there that your friends and family, that's all you got to ask them. Say, is that what you want? Did you want to keep going like it was? Or do you want people who know what the heck's going on and know what to do and know how to save it? Which one is it? That's your only... So get off the negative train and get on the realism train and realize what's going on. Because we're in full control and it's all going great. All right? People die. Get over it. Have you ever listened to Hank Williams Sr.? I'll never get out of this world alive. I don't know what world you're living in, but I've never seen anybody get in a casket and come back. I haven't seen that yet. All right? I've yet to see that. So you're going to die. You need to face reality. You're going to die. Somewhere in between today and the future, you're going to die. Woo! Are you getting in the floor and shaking like a Tickle Me Elmo yet? Oh, did you just hear that for the first time today, that you're going to die? I mean, come on, people, get in the real world. And that's the attitude of someone who don't fight. That's the attitude of you do it. That's the attitude of, oh, well, it'll take care of itself. That's the attitude. That's what that attitude is when you say that. Because you're talking about stuff that's inevitable. All right? Inevitable. So get out of that mindset and get into, hey, you have two alternatives. You have two options. Either you kept going with what you had, race, religion, politics, Republican, Democrat, never getting anything done, up and down gas, up and down economics, up and down everything, markets, eggs, wheat, corn, etc. You already had that. Or someone that says, look, these people set up their own little checks and balances. They robbed Social Security, they robbed all the insurances, they robbed this, they robbed that, they set up their own checks and balances and all these kickbacks behind the door. Understand what happened with the deep state and the global alliance. And then you'll see why the stock market looks like it does right now. And all these other, because they have gone in and reset currencies. They've gone in and got the gold back. They've gone in and said, okay, here's how we keep what we have and we, modify, etc. The things that need to be abolished, we can abolish. Things that need to be changed can be changed. Get in the real freaking world. Quit listening to all the clickbaiters out there. Quit listening to all the people out there that try to cancel people like me and President Trump and all these other people. Quit following that crap. And then you'll get in the real world and then you go, okay, if you really care, if you give a dang, then look at laws and orders currently in place. It's unconventional warfare for a reason. And all the laws and orders currently in vogue that President Donald John Trump, if you claim to be a President Trump supporter, I put quotations around that because some of you, you claim it, but you really ain't. You're here. Oh, yeah, you're here. And you may have a sign. All I got is a Coke bottle here. But you may have a sign that says, oh, President Trump's, oh, yeah. But you ain't right here. And you're not right here. Not yet. And you can be. But you got to get out of that mindset. Because there is an absolute blueprint in place. Absolute. That's why women follow me. That's why females follow me. That's why ladies follow me. Gay ladies, Buddhist ladies, atheist ladies, Christian ladies, all kinds of women follow me, guys. It ain't just one set structure. And to get that different groups, ethnicities, nationalities, religions to follow one person, it's solid proof. Because it's empowerment. It's not me saying, oh, on March the 14th, this is going to take, or on April the 40th, this is going to take place, and December the 500th, this is going to... No! I take it day by day. Because I'm following what President Trump's using. Because he's the commander-in-chief, but he's also the supreme commander. That's why he mentions Eisenhower all the time. Eisenhower was a supreme commander. He was the military governor. Puppet states in the 40s. All right, they had already come out of the 40s. They used the puppet states. All right. There's validation everywhere. And President Trump, so the operational side was that. All he had to do was enforce the laws and orders on paper. That's why he said back in 2022, and in one of his speeches, he said, if they're going to investigate me, they got to investigate every single president before me immediately. Because, see, what happened to Congress, they never thought that someone's going to come in and take it over. Military government. That was the only way it could be done lawfully. Military taking it over. All right. So Congress left all these laws and orders on paper. And when the military government comes in and takes it from them, all right, and flips it on them and enforces all of it, that's why you can see videos of Obama, Hillary, Bill, Schumer, Pelosi. They're all advocating for tariffs. They're all advocating for immigration. They're all advocating to send the kids back. Oh, yeah. See? So, all that talk. So, there's three things that simultaneously happen. All right? So, President Trump also proved to you, the people, why it had to be done this way. This is why it had to be done this way. They come in. Remember the magic wand that Obama said, what does he have, a magic wand? He's going to bring all these manufacturing jobs back? Mm-hmm. Yep, he got a magic wand, all right. The military, all right. Boom! All right, so all the comments, he'll never be president, never. Remember all that? All right, so President Trump comes in. All he had to do was enforce the laws. Start enforcing everything. Enforcing the laws exposed the deep state. That's it. Because all these career politicians for all these years have done what to American people? And just Hansel and Gretel. Throw crumbs like regurgitators do, like clickbaiters do, patriot clickbaiters. Throw any crumbs. They ain't no different. They throw any crumbs. And they just give you enough to keep you hanging on. Right? You know, like the little string with the dollar? And you do that with a little kid. You put a dollar on a string and you just, when they get close to it, you just pull a little bit. That's what clickbaiters do, regurgitators do, career politicians have done to you, the people. President Trump then come in and go, President Trump, what he's done in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a month, 2 months, the liberals couldn't even do it in 60 years. That's why they created all these taxes on everybody. Tax for this, and a tax for that, and a tax for this, because they couldn't create wealth. See, there's a difference in wealth and rich. There's a difference in being wealthy and rich. All right, now, there may be someone who just came into a lot of money this year and don't know if they're going to be wealthy in the future. It depends on what they do with it. Some people can take money and make it into wealth. But there's a huge difference in being rich and being wealthy. The wealthy pass down their money. They don't go out and buy stupid things. They don't end up filing bankruptcy like MC Hammer and losing all his houses and losing all his cars and going back to a 1-bedroom apartment, eating ramen noodles in cold water. All right? They don't. So all the liberals who talk about President Trump filing bankruptcy, President Trump didn't file bankruptcy like that. President Trump used bankruptcy as a business strategy. All right? That's the difference. And that's how dumb they are. So when you follow that negativity and you listen into that and you feed into that, all you're doing is bringing your spirit down. Don't worry about that kind of stuff. Leave that behind. You don't need that. You don't need them. They gonna live just the way you're going to live. They going to get over it. They're going to have to live through it. There ain't a thing they can do to stop it. They ain't going to. When they say President Trump's setting us back 50 years barefoot pregnant in the kitchen, oh, hell no. You going back to 1776. You didn't go back 50 years. We went back to the original foundation. All right? So, there ain't nothing they can do about it. So, when you realize why they had to do it this way, when President Trump gets done on year 12 or year 16, whichever one they do, I believe they ratified the Constitution. I have good reason to believe that. All right? Congress was never supposed to put term limits on the president. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1. Nowhere does it say that the president cannot serve more than 2 terms. It just says 4 years equals a term. All right, Congress put term limits on the president in 1951. Why didn't they put it on themselves? I know why, because there's a timeline always used from 1941 to present day, where the deep state went deeper with their initiatives and what they've done to you, the people. All right, so when President Trump gets done, the liberals, that's why I used that song this week, Charlie Daniels, rest in peace, patriot. Charlie Daniels had a song called Uneasy Rider, where he went in this bar out west somewhere, and these bikers were ganging up on him and stuff, and he he eases out, he hits one of them in the leg, and he starts saying, oh, he's a commie, and he's a this and that, and he gets out in his vehicle, and they all chased him, and he's finally in his vehicle, then he's like leaving the parking lot, but then he's like, wait, I'm in my vehicle, and they're on foot. So he said, I turned around, I just couldn't help it, and I stepped on the gas, and he said, I had them all out there stepping and fetching like their heads were on fire and their asses were catching. All right, so that's that. All right, so that's what's going on right now. All right, liberals don't know, they don't know, the old saying, they don't know whether to crap or go blind. All right, there's another word, but we won't use that because it's Sunday. They don't know whether to poop or go blind. That's what liberals are right now. That President Trump has done so much stuff. It is a true revolution, but it's also a true law and order revolution. It's resetting everything back to common sense. As he says, we're the party of common sense. It's got to be common law, common sense, simple. Congress, the past 60 years alone, we could go back further, but since JFK, they've given so many laws and orders and passed this and this and that and this act and this bill and that. There's a bill for a bill, a law for a law, and a tax for a tax. It is chaos. So that's why President Trump, they had to do it this way. They had to get in there. It had to take time. All right? But also, simultaneously, hang with me, simultaneously, why it had to be done this way is they had to show you. They had to find out, do you want politics or do you want people who work, who are passionate about doing this? Because when you go back and watch videos of Schumer and Hillary and all it, they'll say stuff like, you got to listen. They'll say stuff like, well, economists say, why can't they just say it? Because they don't know it themselves. President Trump knows finances. He knows markets. He's been talking about China for 45 plus years, and it's the same thing. He knows it like the back. He knows the financial side. So see, the things that he said that he had to learn were just things with laws, like what laws on the books for military, what laws on the books for this and that. He knew a lot of them already. So that's why you got to pay attention to what's going on. And that's why it had to look this way. It just had to. They had to show you 4 years of getting in there. And in 4 years' time, President Trump proved to the whole world what career politicians have never done for the past 60 years alone. See, so you think of that 4-year period, then you pull him back as a supreme commander, wartime president. All right? And then that's what a puppet state is. You need to go look and read about government in exile, puppet state, puppet government. All right? It's all there. And we've done this in history before. All right, I like to talk about the Second Philippine Republic because that's the most popular one. That's the one my grandfather loved the most because Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was in his 4th term when he died, 13th year when he died, that's before Congress put term limits on the president. It wasn't that long ago, ladies and gentlemen. All right, it's most of you's mom and dad's lifetime. All right, so Roosevelt brought the president of the Philippines to D.C., President Quezon. All right. He was in D.C. with President Roosevelt. Roosevelt had full control of his military. Japan installed a president for the Philippines, and all he had control of, President Laurel, all he had control of was civil affairs. That's it. And when you go read about a puppet state, matter of fact, I'm gonna pull up puppet state, and we'll read about it. All right, while I'm here. If is a government that appears independent but is actually controlled by another, usually more powerful country. All right. When you hear President Trump say, well, Joe Biden was the worst president ever. All right. When you hear President Trump, see, that's where people get confused. Listen to me, Linda. You know the little kid on the viral video? Listen, Linda. Listen, Linda. This is very important. Listen. This is the one thing that confuses people the most. If you'll ever get this in your head that President Trump is showing you verbiage of a special operation, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare. When he says that Joe Biden was president, he's referring to this right here. A puppet state is a government that appears independent but is actually controlled by another. All right? And that's how they showed you the first 4 years of President Trump coming in and revolutionizing everything. The best economy ever. The stock market boomed. Everything. There were a few things that were coming along. And then COVID. COVID was a biological chemical weapon. The VA clinic. I just posted those pictures on my Facebooks and my accounts. I can't do it on Instagram, but on my accounts. I just went to the VA Friday. All right, the same VA that told me I had to wear a mask when I walked in the door. The same VA who said I needed to take the shot as a veteran to do my duty for the people. All right, same VA, which I did not do. And I never went in there. So if I'd have been deathly sick, I'd have just died. Because I wasn't going, I never capitulated to that bull crap. All right, so same VA now. No photos in there anywhere. There's nothing in there that says anything about COVID. But guess what's back? The flu. Oh, get your shot to prevent the flu. Now, we eradicated the flu in 2020 and 21. Didn't hear anything about the flu. We eradicated it. All right. Now we've eradicated COVID and the flu's back. Woo! Ha-ha! Get the you-know-what out of here. So, it was a deep state retaliation. And if you were following along and understood unconventional warfare, and then what they did with the puppet state, they had to show it to you. They had to show you this stuff. And I know people get tired of hearing that, but you had to see it. So if you're still up in arms in another way, then you're not mad enough and you're not upset enough to want to know the real facts of military law. Because every time you say it's bullcrap, hogwash, malarkey, baloney, anytime you say that, all you're doing, and I'm going to say it, Sunday, forgive me, you're shitting on the graves of every man and woman who've ever served in a uniform and also taken a fall for it. That's what you're doing when you say that, because there's a clear blueprint in place by President Trump that shows and outlines a special operation taking place. And a lot of people, I'm going to go ahead and say it, a lot of people listen to one general out there because they're the master of 5G warfare, which is misinformation. A lot of people jumped ship with me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because one general, one, and they're the master at 5G warfare on top of that. So they're the only person in America, or the world, let's just use the world, they're the only person in the world whose wife can say, does this dress make me look fat? And they can go, yes. Because they're the master of 5G warfare, misinformation. They could do something like that, polar opposite. So yes means no, no means yes, and they're the master at that. Y'all know what general I'm talking about, but there's no beef and bones with them because that's their specialty. All right? And if a general said, yes, we're in a special operation, military government, then the whole world's going to do what? Oh, General so-and-so validated it, and then it's game over. But see, most people weren't going to just listen to me because what do most Americans do? Well, how does he know what he knows? How can he know? Who made him the guy? Who made him the one who's the one who knows? Who made him the one who wrote the book? See, so they knew most Americans were going to do that with me. So kudos to all of you who are here with me, because guess what that means to you? That means you've empowered yourself. You're not just here me throwing you a crumb and going, oh man, you know. No, you are here because you've empowered yourself. You've already gone and read. You gave me a number one bestseller. Y'all did that. Every one of you followers did that to me. There ain't nobody else who did it but y'all. So see, for the people out there that hear this for the first time, if you want to be empowered, you want to know what's going on, divorce your emotions, divorce your feelings. All right? So, the 4 years. President Trump's the one that put the dash on his ball cap. I didn't do that. It wasn't my suggestion. It wasn't me going, hey, I think this will look cool. No, he did that. And he did it April the 2nd, Liberation Day this year. He did it April the 2nd, 2023. See, all these dates have good meaning. He did that 2 years ago. So he was claiming 46 2 years ago. And he was claiming 47 a year and 7 months before November the 5th, 2024. He did that, not me. But that validated me because I already had the documents out. People were already reading what I already knew on the front. And everything President Trump comes out with, it validates, 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 validates. Also, what President Trump's been doing recently, chief submission. Chief, like a chief, commander-in-chief, a chief. All right, like a Native American chief. Chief of mission. All right, ambassadors. Most of his ambassadors that he's naming, guess what they are? Veterans with a lot of experience. All right, the reason why that's important is the chief of mission. When you go read what the chief of mission is in a military occupation, in the military government, validation. All right, now we're going to get into the fun part. This is the real fun. I'm already having fun, but this is the fun part. So I'm going to read these things. So remember, unconventional warfare, it's unconventional for a reason. You're not supposed to know about it if you don't know about it. Right? So that you got to empower yourself. So I'm going to read these articles. And let's see. No, I'm going to read it, President Trump's executive order this week first. All right, so this week on April the 11th, so 2 days ago, Friday, President Trump put a new executive order out. It's not even on the Federal Register yet. All right. As the Chief Executive and Commander-in-Chief, the United States Constitution empowers me to direct the various elements of the executive branch to protect our homeland and ensure the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the United States in the manner I deem most efficient and effective, consistent with applicable law. All right. So, President Trump, this just Friday, executive order. All right. Let me get down here. Here we go. This is the best part of it. The Secretary of Interior shall allow the Secretary of Defense to use those portions of the Roosevelt Reservation not yet transferred or withdrawn under this memorandum, in accordance with Proclamation 10886 or 10886 of January 20, 2025. All right. 43 United States Code is hereby invoked. All right. Then it goes down here and it says consistent with Title 10, Section 2672. And then it mentions Title 50 and Title 18. All right. So Title 10 is your Uniform Code of Military Justice. That's military law. Every veteran listening, we raised our right hand as Title 10, Section 502. That was our oath. You can't have one Title 10 without the other. All right. So there's Title 10, Uniform Code of Military Justice. There's Title 50. That's your War and National Defense. All right. Chapter 33 of Title 50 is your War Powers Act. All right. Chapter 34 are your National Emergencies portion of Title 50. 18 United States Code. That's Title 18. 18 U.S. Code are federal crimes and criminal procedures. All right. Federal. Very key. All right. Then down here, President Trump goes, the authority of the Secretary of Defense to authorize and request that state governors, plural, governors, order members of the National Guard under Title 32. That's even bigger. All right. So now we have Title 10 invoked, and we also have Title 32 invoked. Now, let me get back here real quick. Get back to my notes, what I'm going to do next. So, people out there have asked me, how come other veterans haven't said anything about this? And you'll hear, I've even had what do you want to call it? A thorn in my rear end, quote unquote, critic, all right, who they just are jealous. First off, let's just put it that way, all right, because it wasn't them telling it, and I stole their thunder because I'm an actual veteran. They're not, and that's the way it should be. Because other veterans, when other veterans stand up and speak out, they should get credit too. All right, that's just the way it should work. All right, because this is our wheelhouse. This is our backyard, as the saying is. All right, this is our stuff. I can't help that other veterans aren't awake or more awake, but I can tell you what a veteran will do. A veteran won't whine and complain about some people like out there that's real tough and straightforward and direct and has to kick them in the rear end. Veterans don't complain about that because veterans are used to that. All right, when you're in the military, you need a kick in the rear end every now and then. You need someone to yell at you every now and then. You need someone to give you a little fire under your butt every now and then. So veterans don't complain about people being direct and straightforward and saying it certain ways. All right, that's why they let us cuss in the military. As long as you're not being derogatory, you can cuss all you want. Now, that don't mean that you agree with that, but the point is that there's certain things in the military and veterans operate and think a lot differently. All right, when a veteran is presented with the foundation, but especially with Title 10 military law, and then also, hey, here's what's going on, and it's doing this, and this. It's liberating this, that, and that. It's undoing all these things that were shackling people and burdening people and constraining people. When a veteran is presented with that, they're going to get on board. That's what's going to happen. Or you're going to find out it's going to be either or. They either going to get on board or they're going to be the douchebag, the crap bag. I won't say the other word. I've already said it one time today. But they're going to put a giant red X on their forehead that they never served for the right reasons. Now, that's unfortunate for a lot of Americans right now. A lot of Americans are realizing a lot of veterans, not a lot, it's not a lot like. There's a lot good and there's a small, but there's portions out there who did not serve for the right reasons. Because of money. And that was in what? January 17th, January Q, 1961. All right? January 17th, 1961. President Eisenhower, your supreme commander, your military governor, said what? A military industrial complex. He didn't like where the military was going because of this. And it did a lot. It's recruited a lot of people. That's just a fact. All right? So there's that. So, veterans will get on board when they finally get presented what's actually going on via the military first. See it. If you got a friend or a loved one or whatever out there and they're a veteran and they don't know what's going on or they're being argumentative or whatever, you got to hit them with military first. Don't hit them with anything else. Hit them with military first. Say, okay, well, when you raise your right hand, you took an oath, right? Do it that way. Or just show them this video. All right, so I'm going to do this way. So President Trump, when people say, oh, president can't be president still, yes, he can. All right, it's called a Presidential Emergency Action Document. Now, they're draft classified, meaning you're not going to Google and find this. They're draft classified. However, there's enough laws and orders in place around the P to show you that there was most definitely that done. It's a military government. It allowed President Trump to be a supreme commander, a wartime president, wartime commander. All right, so watch this. All right, you saw that order from 2 days ago, but the order's already been put in place. But I'm going to show you something. There's an article, and I'll post these later for people to find them and read the whole article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. All right, but on January 27th last year, 2024, there's an article. It says Biden doesn't have any legal authority to seize control of the Texas National Guard. All right. So, I'm going to try to find what I was going to read in here. Okay, right here. A number of federal statutes govern the National Guard, federal, which is the modern equivalent of state militias and reserve component of our military. Under Title 10, Section 12301, the Secretary of Defense, and thus the President, is given the authority in time of war or of a national emergency declared by Congress or otherwise authorized by law to order National Guard units to active duty. But they cannot be called to active duty by the President without the consent of the governor of the state. If the governor consents, the unit called into federal service under Title 10 reports to the President as the Commander-in-Chief while in federal service. All right, that's Title 10. All right. Now, that's wrong right there. Then this is not a massive platform. I use that for one reason. They got part of it correct. The other part they didn't. Title 32 is the consent of the governor. Title 10 is presidential federal authority only. See, that's where people, again, let's just say that this platform had 1 million followers. I doubt they do, but let's just play hypothetical. Let's say they had 1 million. And if 1 million people just read that and didn't go study, then guess what they did? Hook, line, and sinker. And they're the ones that could be arguing with you out there going, well, this is what this is. No, you got to go read. You got to go read actual Title 10, Section 12301, 12302, 12303, 12304, 12305, 123406. You got to go read the authorizations. All right, you got to go understand that. Title 10, Title 32, then Title 14, your United States Coast Guard. So you got there's little things like that. So part of this is correct for another reason. They're telling you that Joe didn't have any authority. All right, and I'm going to show you why. But this is funny. If you go on down in this article, it says Biden could go to the extreme by using the Insurrection Act of 1807 to take over the Texas National Guard. The Insurrection Act authorizes the president to federalize the National Guard under certain narrow, exceptional circumstances. They just contradicted what they said up here in the paragraph. It's saying that he could use the Insurrection Act to federalize. No, that's Title 10. All you got to do is use Title 10. Title 10 is your actual authorization. All right? That's why that's so funny. It is hilarious when you know this stuff and you read these things, you're like, they just contradicted themselves. They don't even know what they're talking about. All right? And it says, and this article was from 2024, it says the last time it was invoked was President Bush to help quell the deadly widespread riots in 1992. No, that's not the last time it was used. All right? It's not the last time Title 10 was invoked. Title 10 was invoked by President Trump, which we're going to get to. That's the kicker. All right. Now, all right, I'm going to go to this other article. This is your best one. So if you're truly listening, not just commenting in the comment box, be commenting. All right, if you're listening, this is the best one. This is Newsweek. This is the better one. Joe Biden. Now listen to the headline. This is even hilarious. This is the headline tells you all you need to know. All right, this was January 30th, 2024. 3 days after that other one. This is Newsweek though. Bigger platform. Joe Biden says he's done all he can do about the U.S.-Mexico border. Now, you got to go back to 2024. All right. If Joe was president, he would have had a year left at this point of presidency. And he's telling that he's done all he can do with the border. Now, we're going to read some of this article. Hold on real quick. It's so funny. All right. So, let me find a part I was going to read on here. Oh, boy, it's so funny. So, this is Joe commenting in South Carolina back then. It says, it's so funny, man. It would also, he's talking about a bill. All right, they're talking about get Congress passing a bill. And this is Joe. It would also give me, comma, as president, comma, the emergency authority to shut down the border until it can get back under control. Biden said at South Carolina's First in Nation dinner, if that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. And what just took place just recently, SCOTUS clarified that President Trump can use the 1798 Aliens Act. SCOTUS also said that the president has full control of the border through Article 2 of the Constitution. Don't need a bill. A bill, ladies and gentlemen, all a bill is for funding, meaning money. More money out of your pocket, right? You don't need a bill for that. If the border is that bad, all the president does is get on the phone and say, hey, shut it down. It's too dangerous. Shut it down. Close the ports of entry right now. Effective immediately. Shut them down. Gates down. Everything. That's all the So, see, but if you'd have been, not you, the people who've been following, but you new ones out there, maybe your friends and family gave you this video to watch. If you'd been listening to me the whole time, way back here, 2 and 3 years ago, the order's already in place. That order from President Trump just Friday, it's not a new order. That's not the foundational order. The Title 10 was invoked back in 2020, baby. It's validation all day long. All right? So, those 2 articles I'll post later. All right? So then, I just posted this week, more validation. All right? An article popped up from Army. Army.mil, my branch. All right? Army.mil. 8,200 National Guard are in operations in New York alone for prison duty. Correctional facilities that are on strike. It's one of the largest strikes they've had since 1979. All right? But guess what? This is so funny. All right? Back on March the 11th, the New York State Senate sent President Trump a letter requesting President Trump to federalize the New York National Guard to active duty by Title 10. Listen. The New York State Senate sent President Trump a letter March the 11th, 2025, requesting President Trump to federalize the National Guard by Title 10. That executive order right there is for the southern border. Army.mil, April the 8th, 8,200 National Guard are operating right now in prisons. Where's the Title 10 order at? If you go to Google right now, if you're able to do that, if you're able to watch and go to Google, if you go to Google right now, there's no Title 10 order recently for New York. There's no Title 10 order. How about President Trump? March 27th, 2020. President Trump federalized 1 million reserve components to active duty. 1 million. That's your foundational order. All right, before we get into the other, if you went to Google right now and you type in New York State letter to President Trump, you're not going to find that anywhere except for this year. Now go to Google, type it, pull up another tab. Go to Google and type in Biden. Go ahead and put President Biden. Type it this way. Put New York State Senate, comma, President Biden. Don't put quotes around it, but I do that just because to be consistent. President Biden, letter to President Biden, comma, 2023. Enter. So do New York State Senate, letter to Biden, 2023. Enter. It ain't there. Now you wonder why I just used the 2023? Because we're talking about a 2025 article? Because 2,800 National Guard were in the subways. And mainstream media told you Governor Hochul of New York did that. It ain't no Title 32 order there. That ain't no consent by the governor. The only order in place in 2023, Title 10, March 27, 2020. 2,800 National Guard have been active in New York subways. And then there's an article on Army.mil, and guess what it shows? The Adjutant General. The Adjutant General. And then, remember me talking about Texas last year? February 2024? The only person that's been a president to make an appearance at the Texas border was President Donald John Trump at Del Rio, Texas. The hottest spot they've shown all over the media. They showed you 2,000 dirt poor Haitians somehow got across the Gulf of America to Del Rio, Texas, which is way on the other side of where you would have been at Corpus Christi, Galveston. They would have landed somewhere there if that were true. How in the hell did they get all the way into West Texas? All right, 2,000 dirt poor Haitians. How come they didn't just hop on a raft and float to Florida? Key West. They've been doing it for years. So see, that's how they get the average person. They got all the average Americans hook, line, and sinker. President Trump's told you the whole time the border's central casting. I mean, it's all an act. They have been replaying things. It's all an act. He calls Tom Homan central casting. All right? So, Texas, last year. Biden was shown in Brownsville, Texas the same day. To this day, Brownsville.gov says the 47th president visited. Biden wasn't the 47th president. They can get on. I edit my websites all the time. If there's an error, I can get on there and just that quick. Change it. How come they ain't changed that Biden was the 47th president? On Brownsville.gov. All right? It's all an act, ladies and gentlemen. All right? President Trump, the only person in Texas at the real place of what they call the port of entry, the real place where they caught, while all the mainstream media made it a focus, was Del Rio, Texas. All right? Then, on top of that, chain of command structure was shown that day. But before we get there, a lot of people don't know. You don't at ease a former anything. You don't at ease a former president. If President Trump was a former president, it don't automatically exempt you from military customs. It don't. So you don't at ease a former president, and you don't a former president don't salute. They don't salute. President Trump saluted the whole time, 2021 to 2025. There's a key. Now go back. 14 states deployed to Texas in February 2024. Where is Biden's order? It's not one. 14 states deployed to Texas in 2024. Where is Biden's order? See, so watch. You got February 2024 Texas. You have New York subways. You have now New York prisons. All right, do your math here. And then you have the Southern Command, the illicit drugs operation that started the counter-narcotics operation. All right, and all the Coast Guard, the Title 14. So in that same executive order that President Trump federalized 1 million reserve components active duty, he invoked 4 different codes of Title 14 Coast Guard in that same order. If you get on X, Twitter, this is the same thing. I don't like it. It's like the fact checkers of Facebook. They're wrong about it. They'll say that Title 10 in that executive order expired. No, it didn't. That's the wrong terminology. It did not expire. So when you see community notes on X, they're wrong. Don't work like that. Because again, 2023, the Adjutant General, 2,800 soldiers in New York subways. Where is Biden's order? Where are the New York Senate? Where are their letters to Biden? They're not there. So you have proof of a letter sent to President Trump by the New York State Senate in March, just a few weeks ago. Where are the letters to Biden? Who put the 14 states in Texas? They have to be on a Title 10 order. That's a federal. Immigration is federal. I'm going to make one note here. So, where are they? So see, that's how, right there, you can get any veteran. If they truly care about their oath, and they truly care about the military, and they truly care about military law, military orders, military everything military, that's it. The Adjutant General is your key component, ladies and gentlemen. The Adjutant General reports to the state chief executive, the governor, unless, there's your key word, unless, circle it, underline it, put it in red, unless the National Guard have been federalized under Title 10. The only Title 10 order in place for all these operations, the 1 million reserve components active duty is President Donald John Trump. Executive Order 13912, March 27, 2020. It invoked Title 10, Section 12302. Ladies and gentlemen, reserve components only serve a federal mission. They don't serve a dual mission like the National Guard, state and federal. They only serve federal. That one article just a few days ago validates all of it. So my books that are number one, that one article validates all of it for anybody who is still on the fence or iffy. It validates all of it. And that's just how the military works. And a lot more veterans who have been awake. See, there wouldn't be a me if others would have been reading and studying and knowing what's going on currently, current events, President Trump, world event. There wouldn't have been a me if others would have been doing what they were supposed to be doing. Merle Haggard song from way back in the 70s validates today. When people start doing what they ought to be doing, then they won't be booing no more. When the president goes through the White House door and does what he says he'll do, we'll all be drinking free bubble up and eating that rainbow stew. Well, I guess we need to be getting some free bubble up since they're still in existence out there. And whatever rainbow stew is, I mean, somebody can concoct some good beef stew up because President done gone through the White House door and said what he's doing what he said he'd do. But see, two powerful lines right there have come true in your lifetime. But if people will start doing what they ought to be doing, then they won't be booing no more. If you'll empower yourself with what takes, if you'll do what's right on the front, just be a good, decent person, it takes care of itself. It really does. All right? So there's no letter to Biden from the New York State Senate. So that one thing. Now, I already knew that because we're in a puppet government. So, military government, military occupation, continuity government, continuity operations, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, government in exile, shadow government, puppet state, puppet government. All in that order. That's your shell. All right. It sounds far-fetched when you first hear it and you never heard this stuff before? Yes, it can. But again, it's because you didn't know it. You didn't know any of this existed. You didn't know the president can expand his power via presidential emergency action documents, which is a continuity of government. Those two go together. Eisenhower established that. See, Eisenhower. That's why President Trump mentions Eisenhower all the time. All right? And then presidential emergency action documents are actually, they're draft classified with the Department of Justice and all kinds of other people. All right? Congressmen and women, when people say, do Congress know what? Yes, they know what's going on. That's what a continuity government is. See, little things like that, I don't get frustrated, but little things like that, when people say that, it can frustrate you because you're like, well, you're not reading. That's just a simple core of knowing what's going on, is knowing that a continuity government, yes, Congress knows what's going on. Yes, they do. Continuity government just means that the Constitution's been suspended, the suspension clause, the writ of habeas corpus, all right? So Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 of the Constitution is called the writ of habeas corpus. It's the suspension clause. But guess who does that? Congress. So that's why liberals look really dumb right now, saying President Trump's going to terminate the Constitution. No. Article 1 is your legislative branch. Congress does that. Congress did that. That's why we have a continuity government. And there's an order for that. All right, so watch this. Again, everybody hit that drum roll. Blah, the drum, like a broken record. Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. Put there December the 20th, 2019. In that, I'm going to read it word for word again for people, because you just got to hear it. Not later than 180 days after December the 20th, 2019, and every 180 days thereafter, the President shall submit to the Congressional Defense Committees, the Committee on Foreign Relations of the Senate, and the Committee on Foreign Affairs of the House of Representatives a report on actions taken pursuant to the authorization for use of military force against those countries or organizations described in such law, as well as any actions taken to command, coordinate, participate in the movement of, or accompany the regular or irregular, there's a key word, military forces of any foreign country or government when such forces are engaged in hostilities or in situations where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated by the circumstances during the preceding 180-day period. So see, they got their ass covered on the front, the back, and front again. Because it put a not later than 180 days and every 180 days thereafter, and then it says during the preceding 180-day period. So it means it's covered. All right, that one key word there says regular or irregular forces. Your irregular forces, ladies and gentlemen, that one word, irregular, unconventional warfare, clandestine operations, covert operations, government in exile. It's not your norm. That's why I put it there. All right. So when you go over to Special Operations Command, Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide, the brand new publication by Special Operations Command, they changed their diagram in there, the resistance diagram, Special Operations Resistance Operation. They changed that SORO, not the bad SOROs. They say SORO. That's what they titled it. SORO, Special Operations Resistance. All right. So they changed that diagram from 1966 and 2016. Guess what 50 years equals, ladies and gentlemen? A jubilee. Go talk to some Jewish Hebrew people. Ask them what a jubilee means. So from 1966 to 2016, they changed that pyramid. They changed the word in there. Very key word that also validates everything. They changed the word agitation to assassination. Page 11, there's a diagram. It's called a resistance pyramid. It's got a line on everything. This talks about resistance movements. All right. Unconventional warfare, overthrowing the government lawfully. Only the military can do it. That's why it had to be done this way. So when you hear people complaining and whining, they call themselves patriots, they clearly don't appreciate and love the military like they should, because this is all military. All military. Special operations. All lawful. All in President Trump's laws. All of these are President Trump's laws that he invoked, that he put into place. And that's all you need to know. You don't need anything else out there. And I don't care if I do offend other quote-unquote podcasters. I'm a veteran first. I'm military first. All right? That's simple. Keeping an oath, honoring everybody who served above me, around me, men, women, and the ones who done passed on. That's what this is about. Everybody else can eat dirt or get on the program. It's really that simple. All right, so it says not later than 180 days after December the 20th, 2019. Now watch. You've heard me do this before, but we're going to do this again. Because of the New York State Senate validated everything. Because of the 2023 article that I've posted that shows that the National Guard were already in the subways. And there's no letter from the New York Senate to quote-unquote Biden. For the average Americans out there, there's no letter to Biden. So the only Title 10 order in place to that level is March 27, 2020. Because it federalized 1 million reserve components. Reserves are federal only. The only Title 10 order that Joe has in any executive order, which is still a puppet state, a puppet government, all right, it had to be a continuity, but the only Title 10 that Joe has is for it's a continuation of the illicit drugs operation, which we're going to talk about in a minute. All right, but you got to know your formula first. So way back in 2016, before President Trump was president, February 2016. All right, well, let's go back. We'll go back to 2015 just because. June the 12th, 2015. The Law War Manual was reissued. That's the one that has the terms white flag of surrender that President Trump uses, capitulation that President Trump uses, all right, occupied territory that President Trump has used in terminologies and speeches.
Ladies and gentlemen, you don't use that terminology in everyday language. You know why? Because it's not government topic. It's not government glossary. It's not government index. It's not government definitions. It's all law war manual. It's all military. A lot of people in the military don't even know about a law war manual. So President Trump has used all those terms in scenarios that shows you validity, that you're in a military government, military occupation, continuity government, continuity operation. So go back to 2015. That law war manual was reissued June the 12th, 2015. President Trump rolls down the escalator to announce his candidacy June the 16th, 4 days later. No coincidence. Fast forward. February 2016, President Trump, Obama had said something earlier that day, and President Trump was at a speech somewhere, and he said, oh, and by the way, we're going to keep Guantanamo Bay open. I'll be signing an executive order to keep it open. April 2016, Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide. New Special Operations Command, Unconventional Warfare. That's when it came out, April 2016. May 2016, the Supreme Court. Now, it's not supposed to work like this, but liberals will make you think it does, but it don't. There's only 10% of liberals anyway. They bark the loudest, but don't let them make you think that they're the 90 percentile. They're not. All right, but liberals say, oh, that's President Trump's Supreme Court voting for him and ruling for him. 2016, the United States Supreme Court. Guess who that was under? Obama. All right. What was Obama's Supreme Court? Now, it don't work like that, but since they do that, we're going to play tit for tat here, since they do it. What was Obama's Supreme Court out of nowhere, out of the blue, just randomly going, hey, Military Justice Act of 2016. They clarified that federal courts are separate from military courts. What do you need to operate in a court? Laws and orders. So the United States Supreme Court in 2016, in the Military Justice Act of 2016, clarified that federal courts are separate from military courts. Federal law is separate from military law. But there's 4 ways they pair. Only 4. That's why this stuff's so simple. There's only 4 ways, ladies and gentlemen, that military law pairs with federal. Executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. That's it. And guess who writes the treaties? President. That's simple. And he can ask Congress their opinion, but he don't have to. So when you hear that Congress, when you hear the terminology, oh, President Joe, he's going to terminate the Constitution. That's Article 1. That's the legislative. All right, so it shows you that this is a continuity, meaning it's bipartisan. It's a whole. Because, yes, all the terminology goes back to that law war manual. It goes to your military government, military occupation, continuity of operations, continuity government. All right. So then you roll forward. President Trump, November the 8th, 2016. He's never going to be president, never. All that, remember that now. Oh, and the Hillary lost her crap. Oh, she was doing all this, right? Remember that? Yeah. So there's that. Lost her marbles. All right. That shows you that they knew then that the military had taken over. All right. That's when all the lawfare started. Russia this, or Russia that, Russia. Right? Some of that was real, some of that was resistance. If you'll go study the resistance chart in the Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide, page 11. All right, if you'll go study that, Google Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide, April 2016, .mil, enter. This is how you empower yourself. Go to page 11. All right, type in a little PDF thing, type it in, page 11, and pull it up real quick. Or you just scroll down, it's not far. All right, so it's only 19 pages long. The rest of the pages are all references. That's how cool that is. All right, so when you take that timeline, now let's fast forward to this right here. This was December the 20th, 2019. In that first 180 days alone, that's your Executive Order 13912. Executive Order 13919, where President Trump gave the Secretary of Defense equal authority to federalize the reserve components to active duty. All right, that was in your first 180 days alone. NAFTA was ended and the USMCA was established July 1st, 2020. All right, so all that took place in that first 180 days. You also had your Hong Kong order put in July 14th, 2020. All right, there's a lot of things put in place in that first 180 days. But the reason why this is important, you've heard me say it before, but I'm also showing you some more validity. 180 business days. So 180 business days, ladies and gentlemen, from December the 20th, 2019, 180 business days exactly is August 28th, 2020. Guess what was put out that day? A congressional report, a CRS report. All right? Well, guess what it's titled? The Military Justice Act of 2016. That's what the headline says. What does it say right here? In Title 50, Chapter 33, which is your War Powers Act. War Powers Act, presidential. It says, the President shall submit to the Congressional Defense Committees, the Committee on Foreign Relations of the Senate, and the Committee on Foreign Affairs of the House of Representatives a report of actions. In the second 180 days, your Abraham Accords took place. Peace in the Middle East. Executive Order 13959 with the national emergency, which is the very one that seized all the assets of all these institutions and all these organizations who were illegally funding the Chinese military. That's a big one there. That was November the 12th, 2020. December the 7th, on Pearl Harbor Day, they took all these days in history and they flipped things and put good things on them. December the 7th, 2020, President Trump, Executive Order 13961, the Federal Mission Resilience Strategy, which is your continuity of government and continuity of operations of the executive branch. And then Executive Order 13963, 3 days later, December the 10th, 2020. The most recent and the last, hear that carefully, the most recent, but also the last order of succession in the Department of Defense being used right now is Executive Order 13963. Why doesn't Joe have one? So the most recent order of succession we're using is from December the 10th, 2020. In that second 180 days of this clause right here. And it's in Department of Defense directives. Recent Department of Defense directives. All right. Now, that Executive Order 13961 from December the 7th, 2020. Your continuity of operations and continuity of government of your executive branch. Joe, the last executive order on Joe Biden's resume, quote unquote. The last one. January the 19th, 2025. The last executive order, when you go to federalregister.gov and you see Joe Biden's executive order, the last executive order is the revocation of Executive Order 13961. The revocation of the continuity government. So if we weren't in a military government, military occupation, continuity government, continuity of operations, if Joe was president, hear me out, this is real simple. If Joe was president and had full control of the government, I just said it, he would have had the same authority and power as every other president in United States history. If we were not in a continuity of operations, continuity of government, military occupation, why didn't he terminate that on January the 20th, 2021? Why would you let a continuity of government order and continuity of operations and military government and military occupation roll to the very last full day of a presidency? You can't revoke something that hasn't been invoked, ladies and gentlemen. It don't work like that. I mean, it's right in front of you. The last national security strategy. Guess who it was written by? Keith Kellogg. And I mean that with the utmost respect, because now, from here out, again, you call him General Keith Kellogg. All right, who was named the ambassador to Ukraine, right, recently. All right, but General Keith Kellogg over in North Carolina last year, President Trump's speeches over there before the storm and all. President Trump said, "I'd like to honor someone. I'd like to give a shout out to someone who's been with me before all of this." What does that mean, President Trump? What do you mean all of this? What is this? I know what it is. Do you? Right? Before all of what, President Trump? That's what all the average Christians, what is this? Define this. And he looked over and said, General Keith Kellogg. General Keith Kellogg is the author of the National Security Strategy from 2017. And if you remember, I posted this last year. The mainstream media said that, there's a new 2025 national security strategy that's out. Just in case President Trump gets the presidency, he can already be studied up on it. I love this stuff. Nowhere in history have we ever had a national security strategy put out before any president. But just in case President Trump gets the presidency, he can be studied up on it. Guess who the author was? Is General Keith Kellogg. How come on Department of Defense, the official Department of Defense that I have my press credentials from, how come the last national security strategy on Department of Defense.mil is 2017? Where's Biden's from 2022? How come you can't click on Biden's anymore and it go over? Because, there's no archives of anything of Biden. Now, there's a Biden archive page, but where are all the stuff archived? Where is it? It's not there. There's nothing there. There's no former orders anywhere. You can't find this stuff. Yes, it's on the federalregister.gov, the executive orders, but that's a continuity of government. The auto pen, President Trump said the auto pen, he's already validated me to Pluto 1,000,000 times and back. Flat Earth, round Earth, square Earth, octangle, whatever, rectangle Earth. It don't matter what Earth you want to believe in. I've been validated to Pluto and back. If you don't believe in Pluto, then insert whatever you want to insert there. Skittles, whatever, Snickers bars, Three Musketeers, whatever you want to put there, put it there. I've been validated to it and back. Because I'm operating with what President Trump's operating with. It's called military laws, military orders. Federal laws, federal orders that pair with those. Now, there's been no White House military office. If you go to Google again and type in whitehousemilitaryoffice.gov, guess what the last one pops up is? Obama's. The White House military office, ladies and gentlemen, is the logistics of the president. Presidential travel, Air Force One, Air Force Two, your Marine One. Where are they? Where's President Trump's at? Because it's a military government. Military occupation. Military. I love this stuff, man. You can't be more. It's like. You know what's awesome about it too, though? You know what's awesome about being right? You know, if there's a point for me to brag, you know what's awesome about being right? You know what's cool about it? Is it's exposed all your wannabes. It's exposed all your negative. It's exposed everybody that don't want to work, don't want to be a good, decent human being. But the key thing, you know what's awesome about being right? I had a sergeant that came to me 3 years ago, before I went viral. All right? Before I went viral, I have a sergeant who messaged me. He said, Derek, you have a unique voice. You have a unique personality. But you love people. And you're good to everybody. You're the one person who can take two people arguing and get them to come to a neutral ground. If they're capable of being a good, decent human being. If they're two good people and they just can't meet eye to eye, you're the person who can go in the middle of them and say, hey, what are we doing here? This sergeant, he's still in the military too, by the way. All right. Great, one of the greatest leaders I've ever been around. One of the greatest. And I hope he achieves everything in the military, and he deserves it. I hope God clears a way for him to get every leadership position because he deserves it. He told me, he said, Derek, you have a unique voice, unique personality. He said, but here's the thing. The only way our fallen brothers and sisters can be truly honored is for someone to always honor them. It's really that simple, like I said. But use your platform. Take your platform and use it that way. He was like, and tell their story. Tell the story. Tell the military side. Tell the military laws. Tell the military orders. Tell that part. And see, that's how we honor our fallen. Because whether they knew what they served under or not, it doesn't matter. They fell for this country. They took a fall for this nation. They're in a grave right now for this nation. That's why it matters. That's why it matters. They paid the ultimate sacrifice for you to have your life, to you to have your freedoms, to keep this ideology of America going. That is what veteran is all about. It ain't about how many tours you did and this, that. It ain't got nothing to do with that. And the veterans out there that do that, you've got to work on yourself too. It ain't got a thing with belittling your brothers and sisters on what they didn't do. If you focus all the time on what people didn't do in anything, not just military, we got to get out of that. It ain't about what you didn't do, it's what you did do and how much you did and how much you gave. Now, President Trump just truth something early this morning, like early wee hours, it was last night, I can't remember. But President Trump truth that the president of El Salvador is coming to visit. All right? He said we're looking forward to keeping our work up and our operations. What? Well, ladies and gentlemen, first 180 days, April the 1st, this wasn't no fools though, but April the 1st, 2020, the first 180 days, first 180 business days, Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, Southern Command. Remember when I slipped up earlier? I was talking about Special Operations in Southern Command launched a counter-narcotics operation with 22 joint partners. El Salvador is one of them. All right? And it's what? It's a counter-narcotics operation. So there's your fentanyl, your cocaine, all drugs. All right? But President Trump didn't just... It ain't just that. It is not just drug operation. They also busting all these cartels with sex trafficking, human trafficking. All right? Trafficking. All kinds of trafficking. First 180 days, validation right there. El Salvador. So... You look at this big prison they put down there, joint partners. They've been our joint partner. All right, so, that's the stuff that gets me, though, about the liberals out there. Is that if there's a liberal with a good heart and a good mind, I've yet to find one. But if there is, then they need the material. That's why it's important that you divorce your emotions, divorce your feelings, go, okay, if you're a decent person at the end of the day, it don't matter what background you are, ethnicity, nationality, what your religion is, what your preferences are, none of that. All right? Too many people are letting that hamper and get in the way of real truth, real facts. All right? Because you don't have to like some of this stuff, but you still, even if you don't like it, you still need to know it because, again, you're not in control. You're never going to be in control. All right? The good guys and gals are in control and cleaning out the world. All right? And the closer we get, everything's going to be so. President Trump said it. You're going to be winning so much. You're going to get tired of winning. So see, what's going to also happen is when all the money's freed up, your taxes, certain taxes are gone, and all your money's coming in, and your paycheck's worth your paycheck again, right? And you're able to do things without constraint and burdens of the career politicians and the bureaucrats and the swamp and the global alliance. When all that starts rolling, we're going to be winning so much. He already said it. our retribution will come through success. So all of you out there who have jumped ship because you haven't seen someone arrested or you haven't seen someone strung up and executed, you have the wrong attitude. All right, because in military, even in humanitarian law of the military, you are to treat your prisoner of war with dignity and respect. Meaning that, no, yeah, you can punish them. Yes, by what's deemable by punishment. However, God does the judging. And that's for so many Americans. Oh my God, have mercy on social media, the comment boxes, the judgment, all day long. But if it was that person making the comment, if it was them, it'd be the polar opposite. So if everybody would start practicing again, being a good, decent human being, all right, what they're going to do, what it looks like they're going to do, and I feel this in my heart. Now, you can be a full-fledged secret military part of the operation and still not know what the commander's going to do. That's just part of military. And a lot of you out there, you want stuff when you want it. And the military don't work like that. Hurry up and wait. So that's why some of you don't have the patience, because you've never been in it. All right? Hurry up and wait. But at the same time, we want this done lawfully, no loopholes, morally, ethically, with integrity. But the one moment that you deviate from any of those and you cut a corner, then guess what you've done? You've validated all those and you have no foundation to stand on. So next time you say laws and orders, we're a nation of laws and orders, someone's going to go, yeah, but you made a shortcut here. You violated this one. That's why it had to be done this way. So if you get that in your head, the justice part, all of that portion, when Americans appreciate what's been done by your foundation, your core values, your principles, your ethics, your morals, your standards, and then your integrity of all those, when we're winning so much, once so many Americans, and even liberals, there's going to be a massive portion of liberals who are going, whoa. Because when you start seeing results of what someone has said, consistency matters. Come on, preach, Derek. Preach. Consistency matters. When someone's been consistent and validation starts rolling of that consistency, rolling operation, when that happens, you can't argue with it. And when it's good for you, you're not going to complain. So see, when everything's flowing, we've gone through the operation part of it. We had to go through a rough patch, yes, because we've been doing operations in trafficking, all forms of it. They had to go in there and find the gold. They had to go back in there and clean these systems out. You had to codify these systems. You're not thinking about all the banks that were decentralized. You have to decentralize all this. You got to train people in the new systems. You got to have people code these systems. That's what the average American's not thinking of. So when all that starts flowing and rolling, and people's paychecks and your bank accounts are free from burden and free from bureaucrats and free from the deep state and free from when all that starts rolling and that validation starts coming in, the goal with this was not some white old people and white guys beating our chests going, oh yeah, we're going to show you and military. No, this operation was bipartisan. It is bipartisan. Congress knows there's multiple world leaders involved. There's actors playing roles who look bad, but they're good. That's why I keep telling people, quit trying to decide who's good and bad. You don't know that. You're not part of that. You can't even name the 3 branches of government. Stop judging. When the validation starts rolling in all forms and facets, when we get Americans where they need to be, then they'll unveil the people who did this and that and other. Chill the you-know-what out. So, all these law firms President Trump's been executive orders about. Every law firm, ladies and gentlemen, that came after President Trump. Now, I know it was a special operation because they're cleaning out Article 1, legislative branch. They've cleaned out Article 2, executive branch. Now you're watching the clean out of Article 3, the judicial branch. Now, I know it's already taken place. And a lot of you do too. But for the people that don't, that's what you've been witnessing is a true reset and foundation. So all this stuff with the judges right now has already been done. But if you're still reacting to it, then you got to see it in real time. It's not real time if you go read and study all the laws and orders and vote. It's not. But if you're still reacting that way, then you're not studied up on all the laws and orders over here that you could to know it's unconventional warfare. It's all part of unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, clandestine operations code, all this. Military government, military occupation, continuity of government, continuity of operation. You already have your validations of Executive Order 13961 and the revocation. That proves continuity of government alone. New York State Senate. No letters into Biden, but all of a sudden there's a letter here to President Trump in 2025, and the National Guard have been active in New York this whole time. Where are those letters? Where are those orders? There's still not a Title 10 order in place by President Trump for the National Guard of New York in 2025 because it's back here in 2020. You have validation. It's there. Now, the law firms, judicial branch, Article 3. It's why it's so important to know history. Our founders. So see, SCOTUS ruled that President Trump can use the 1798 Aliens Act, which is wartime orders, which validates again Title 10 and Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. It's all there. That's your foundational orders right there. That's for people to go, where's the order? Here it is right here. Right there. Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. There it is. Then you got to know everything else that pairs with it, though. You can't just look at it alone. But that's it. That's your visual. That's your empowerment. So the law firms, judicial branch, it was so important in Marbury versus Madison in the year of 1803. This is very important. See, the legislative and executive branches are elected by we the people. They are to do what the will of the people, what we want. Legislative writes the laws. Executive enforces the laws. So when the legislative branch are voted on by us on what we want and they write the laws that we want, then guess what? When the president and the cabinet don't do what the legislative branch has written, then guess what? That's when we go, okay, we want you out of there. We vote you out because you're not doing that. And when all the people are empowered on how this works, that's when you have the majority. And when the majority speaks, then you vote them out. So you can't vote out leaders when you don't know what's going on. That's why some leaders have stayed in power for so long, because the people forgot their power. We're the government. We elect them to represent us on the state and a federal. We do that. They work for us. Then if the president's not doing what we want written in law, then we vote them out. But see, the president, the executive branch, appoints the judicial branch. See, and if you go read the Federalist Papers, that's why the Federalist Papers are very important, because it shows you the state constitutions and the federal constitution. All right, President Trump and his Supreme Court cases right now, there's a ton of them on the docket too. The mainstream media ain't telling you nothing, which they never do anyway. But there's a ton of Supreme Court docket cases with President Trump versus United States government that's yet to be heard and going to be heard. All right, that's why it's going to be so monumental. This is going to be biblical, monumental, and historical. Massive clean out of the judicial branch. All right, but when you go back, when you go read this stuff, President Trump's cases, dockets, have the Federalist Papers listed as references a lot in there. So and it shows you what number, and you go read the number. You just type it in Google. Federalist Paper number 47. Federalist Paper number 65. Federalist Paper number this. Go read it. All right, empower yourself. All right, but our founders, So see, that's why it's so key with the judicial branch, but also 1803, landmark case and a landslide case, both. Marbury versus Madison. We had a founding father, the father of the Constitution, having to go into the Supreme Court and clarify what he wrote. He's the one that wrote majority of the Constitution. He's having to go into a Supreme Court 16 years after he wrote the Constitution and tell the Supreme Court what a law looks like? No wonder we look stupid in America. No wonder Americans look dumb and atrocious. I mean, there's really no words for it. Atrocious is probably the best word. Liberals look, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know anything funny to say for a liberal. They look, I mean, they're dumber than a cement block that had a baby with a hyena. I mean, there's no way that's possible, but like, we just have to make a cartoon for it. They're that dumb, and they look that atrocious. So, James Madison said a law repugnant to the Constitution is void. So in modern day language, if I can paraphrase for you, it says this: a statute that looks like a law, or a piece of paper with words that looks like a law that doesn't support the Constitution, is null and void. That's what that means. So we got a lot of laws on paper that don't need to be there. We got a lot of statutes. We got a lot of bills. We got a lot of acts. We got a lot of things that don't need to be there. That's just common sense. All right, so the reason why that case was so landmark and landslide is it shows how the judicial branch through the years have taken over, and they flipped the role. And Americans didn't know this because Americans don't even know the three branches of government alone. They can't even name them. So if you can't even name the three branches, then you can't tell what the three branches do and the order of which they're supposed to be in, and who's elected and who's appointed. If President Trump tomorrow wanted to walk in and fire every judge right now in America, from the United States Supreme Court to your appeals court to your district, if he wanted to walk in tomorrow and say, out of here, pack your bags and get out, he could do it. And not a thing in the world anyone could do about it. In reality, they've done that, but that's also, it should just be a massive clean out. And it might be. They might do that. But that's also why he wrote an executive order before he visually left office for the average people back there in 2021. President Trump, in the last few days of his quote-unquote, he didn't leave, but for the average American out there that thinks that, why was he writing an executive order for a protection order of all judges and officials? That's a big order right there. Because of what was about to take place. Continuity of government, continuity of operations, military government, military. So all the judges who stand up for what's right, this is still a real operation as far as the operation goes. All right, so people, death threats, real threats, all right, protection. That's why he federalized so many reserve components. That's why he also deputized and marshaled a lot of people. There's a lot of people operating in secret that you don't realize. You don't realize it. There's a lot walking around you daily that's got your back. You just don't know it. All right. A lot of us. All right. So there's that. So the judicial branch, Marbury versus Madison. The justice back then knew if he didn't rule a certain way that James Madison, the father of the Constitution, who's in there on that court case, trying to, again, listen to that. Here's the guy who wrote the Constitution, clarifying what a law looks like. So he's telling them, so he says, a law that's repugnant to the Constitution is void. All right. So the justice knew if he didn't rule that they would wipe them out. They, meaning the founders, they were all still living in 1803, majority of them. So see, that Supreme Court and the judicial branch knew that if they didn't rule a certain way, they would be abolished, and the founders would have done something different and or just fired them and replaced them with new judges. It's really that simple. That's what you're watching right now. When you saw all these cases come against President Trump, and I'm going to close with this. We're getting close to closing. So when you go look, all right, when you go read all this in order and in place, but when you go look up the Special Operations Command Pocket Guide on Conventional Warfare, and you look at the Google the difference, type in 1966 Resistance Pyramid, enter, or just find it on my page, and then look at page 11 of the new Special Operations Command. Look at the two resistance pyramids and study the difference in them. It changed one word on a key line. In 1966, the word was agitation. 2016, they changed the word to assassination. If you go on Supreme Court docketsearch.gov and type in Donald J. Trump, 23-939. Go to March 19, 2024. And there's a bunch of them in this in 23-939. There's a bunch of petitions by President Trump in that case alone. A lot of petitions. All right. Scroll down to March 19th. There's going to be a few entries for March 19th. Find the one that says 3, the number 3, amici curiae, all right, or military. So click on that one. When you read that petition, it's President Trump versus United States government. And it asks a question in there. It says, can a president authorize SEAL Team 6 to commit murder on a political rival? Basically assassination. 3, amici curiae, which is Latin for friends of the court, say no. Guess who one of those 3 amici curiae is? 3-star general retired Keith Kellogg. No. But the reason why that's important, in that docket case, in that petition, it talks about assassination. It talks about Executive Order 12333. When you go to your Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide, hit Control F on your laptop, your search bar, type in 12333. There's a reference in there for it. Assassinations. Executive Order 12333 is President Ronald Reagan. Who did President Trump put in the Oval Office? Right on the other side of the United States Declaration of Independence? President Ronald Reagan. That El Salvador that I mentioned earlier and that counter-narcotics operation, guess what the task force is? The OCDETF task force. Who established that? Ronald Reagan. Yeah. Now, President Reagan's executive order was a follow-up to President Gerald Ford's assassination executive order. Executive Order 11905. When you go read 11905, it shows all the things in there that who cannot do to the president. The 3-letter agencies. Physical searches. Surveillance. Electronic surveillance. Opening of mail. Taxes. Who raided Mar-a-Lago again? What did they take? Presidential documents that the Presidential Records Act of 1978 says the president can actually have? Huh? Who spied on President Trump's campaign at Trump Tower, a private establishment? Ooh. Who has been asking for President Trump to release his taxes? what's Executive Order 11905 say again? Oh, and guess what that's also going to do? That's also going to exonerate President Nixon, who was also rooted out by these evil bastards. Watergate was a rigged setup the same way President Trump, they tried. It's a rewriting of history in another kind of manner. It's a resetting of it. It's not rewriting, it's a resetting of the foundation. The principles, the morals, the ethics. So when you people out there bitching, whining, complaining about, oh, why is it taking so long, all these whatever negative thing, you're failing to see what they're doing. President Nixon, if God lets him see it on the other side, that's the only way he's going to see his name be exonerated. And all these other people that the bureaucrats and the deep state had lied about, lied on, spied on, and railroaded, smeared their names, smeared their families, ruined their names, ruined their family, all these years. What President Donald John Trump and the military is doing is resetting the foundation with integrity, morals, ethics, and principles. And the one time you loophole that or go around that, then you lose all that. So shut the you know what up. Shut the you know what up. And appreciate what you're watching. Because so many lives are being exonerated who will never see it. It's kind of like when they induct someone into the Hall of Fame who's passed on. That's BS. If they were great, they should have already been there. They should have been there to see that. So that one court case, and then your continuity of government gets validated again, because all of you who thought President Trump was an assassination attempt on July 13th last year, the one word that was changed, the biggest word in the 1966 resistance, unconventional warfare, in 2016, agitation to assassination. And the key line says this: assassination, comma, forming public opinion, favorable public opinion, parentheses, advocating national cause, close parentheses, comma, and then it says creating distrust of established institutions. Now think about it for a moment. Again, I've done this before, but think about it again. Now you have all your validation this week of an Army article about the National Guard in New York. The only letters to any president is a letter to President Trump this year, but the Title 10 order is in 2020. Texas, last year, 14 states, federal, deploys to Texas. The only president at the border, President Donald John Trump, standing with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general. There's your adjutant general in the Army article of 2023 and the adjutant general in the article of 2025. The adjutant general reports to the governor unless the National Guard are federalized by Title 10. You have all those validities. Now, you fast forward to this assassination attempt. You can't have one. You can't believe in one part of the operation without the other. Assassination, forming favorable public opinion. Did it do that? Did you get mad? Let's just be honest. It's okay. For anybody in the comment box, if you got upset, that just means you still weren't. Maybe you were trying, and that's fine. I'm here to empower you, uplift you from that angle. All right. Maybe you were trying to understand and seek all that, but if you got mad, bitter, upset, oh gosh, why would that? If you reacted like that, it formed a favorable public opinion because you would do what? That's not needed. Even Democrats, a few, said what? Oh, we don't condone violence like that. Now, that's taking it too far. Did it form a favorable public opinion? Checkmate. Parentheses. Did it advocate a national cause? Well, how you answer that? Well, did it leave Butler, Pennsylvania? Yes. Did it leave the Pennsylvania Penguins, the Pennsylvania Flyers, the the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Philadelphia Eagles? Did it leave the people of Pennsylvania? Did it go over to New York? Did it carry over to New Jersey? Did it carry over to Alabama? Did it carry over to Texas? Did it carry over to California? Checkmate. Creation of distrust of established institutions. Did you get mad at the FBI? Did you get mad at the CIA? Did you get mad at the DOJ? Did you get mad at the Secret Service? Checkmate, 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 checkmate. So that whole line in the special operations pyramid of resistance movement, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, clandestine operations, covert operations, checkmate. Then the next week they had the director of the Secret Service under congressional oath. And what did they ask her? A specific guy said what? Did President Trump receive the same security he would have received as a sitting president? This is where they trip everybody. Because you're going, oh, well, they're saying he wasn't a sitting president. No, you're not listening. See, he wasn't a sitting president. He was a sitting commander. He's the supreme commander. He's a wartime commander. All right, it's a big difference in a constitutional president and a commander. And what happened? She said, well, and then he goes, that's not what I asked you. He interrupted her, but what did she say? She said, a continuity of government. This is now almost a year ago. And see, these National Guard, Title 10 and Title 32, these orders now, they're like, if you were like at 98.2%, you should have the green light to run it all the way to 100. There is nothing else you would need now. There's nothing else that President Trump's going to say or do that you already have 100%, full 100% validity that you've been in a military government, military occupation, continuity of government, continuity of operations. But guess what? Guess what my documents written way back in 2021, that's when I wrote them all together. I already had notes before that, but way back, still up, the documents.info. Now, some of the links on there are void because some of these publications don't keep stuff archived. Some of them deleted stuff on purpose. All right, so, and that's a fact. President Trump's already said that. President Trump's already validated that certain networks had deleted certain articles. All right, but my documents have been consistent. Military operation, covert operation, etc. Military in control. Fast forward. God gave me a platform. I've brushed it up and I've condensed it as best as I can. But anybody who wants a 5-minute conversation, it can't be done that way. It just cannot be outlined like that. So all these law firms, that President Trump's written executive orders for, what have they done? They've capitulated to him. They have offered $100 million in services for veterans mainly. And that's also, guess what that's also going to do? That's another validation coming for you. What has President Trump said? He said we're going to rescue the homeless off the streets. Most of our homeless are veterans, unfortunately. So guess what's going to take place? All these pro bono services, $100 million. Go read the articles. Go read the executive orders. It talks about veterans first in there. So veterans who might have a DD-214 somewhere but don't know how to get it, or the VA playing games with them, all right, and we've had to clean out the VA too, let's be honest. We know that for fact. VA has been a conundrum for years. All right, look at all the Vietnam vets in the 70s that the building burned down, quote unquote. Remember Agent Orange? Look how many Vietnam vets have Agent Orange. All right, and their records all of a sudden burned down in a building. Yeah, get the you-know-what out of here. You know the government did that back then. Their records just disappeared. Yeah. The treatment for Vietnam vets is horrendous. It's beyond abhorrent. The way Vietnam vets got treated by libtards now who call President Trump a draft dodger, the same people who call President Trump a draft dodger are the same descendants of assholes who dodged the draft, all right, and spit on Vietnam vets when they came back. Now, you want to talk about deporting somebody? I'd deport them. But that's why I'm not president. See, I would be a little bit more, people would really hate me. But people have forgotten how Vietnam vets were treated in this nation. All because, no, we shouldn't have been in Vietnam. And most Vietnam vets will tell you that. We shouldn't have been there. But, again, they served their nation. When we raise our right hand, we serve for you, our people, our nation. All right? And they got called into something. They got called into it. And they took that call. But most of them can tell you, most of us can tell you, these wars were all BS wars. However, it doesn't matter. All right, what matters is that we've answered the call. Every veteran has, whether they knew it or not, raised their right hand. That's all that matters. They were willing to serve their nation. All right, it was the bureaucrats and the deep state that were playing the games. All right, and hindsight's always 20/20, which is why it's important that we get it right moving forward. That's why we had to go through what we had to do. That's why we're having to go through what we're going through. That's why everything had to be done this way. Because so many people have hindsight and won't correct hindsight for the future. So these law firms, you know what they've done? They've capitulated. That's a capitulation. When you take a plea deal, ladies and gentlemen, you're saying, I'm guilty, but please don't destroy us. We will do whatever. Please don't destroy our firm. Please. When you take a plea deal, that's what that means. They capitulated the president. We'll give you $100 million. We'll do this. We'll do that. That is a capitulation. And most of these law firms are the ones who did what? The fake dossier. Remember everybody on the news in 2016? Russia, collusion. All these law firms. Now, I know it was a special operation, but for the ones who don't yet, they have to see it like that. All these law firms are the same law firms who went after President Trump. They've all capitulated. They've all raised the white flag of surrender. That's what pro bono service is. For President Trump not to punish them, they have said, okay, we'll be a part of the good team. And guess what they have to do? You know how President Trump is. President Trump, when he says do this, you better do it. When he says jump, you say how high. So if they have a hiccup along the way, the original deal goes to them. That's how you do that. You say, all right, here's the deal. You weren't committing crimes against humanity. You were just doing something unlawful, all right, against me, your president, all right. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to do this, that. You're going to do those things. Or if you slip up along the way, or one of your partners does, or one of your affiliates do, the original deal is going to come down on all of you. Simple. That's how you solve that. So, a lot of Americans, you've got to give some leeway to some Americans out there because you don't know the full truth. You don't know everything. It's going to come out in the future. Down the road, there's going to be validation, full validation in a rolling operation. But right now, there are some people who are capable of going, hey, I was wrong, but they didn't do a crimes against humanity. They were wrong. They shouldn't have done it. No. But their punishment's coming over here. Let President Trump deal with it. He's doing that. He's done that. It's all been an operation. All right? So it's flipping that. So your judicial branch is being cleaned out right now. So for those of you who are reacting in real time to these judges, you can have all your answers right here with even military law, the Title 10s of the National Guard. That validates the whole thing. They're cleaning out the judicial branch, the judicial system. You've also heard simultaneously there are lawyers out there of professors, law professors, who are complaining because they've been teaching law all these years and all of a sudden it's changing. You know who changes that? A military does that. It's not Oh, so when you think, well, listen now, when you think of all the attorneys in this nation, and you think of all the law schools in this nation, when you think of all of those people, like an ant bed, when you think of all those people and they're all complaining because the law's changing, the only person who can implement that, military. The military is the only one who can lawfully make all these institutions go, you're doing this or else. Validity. Now, talk about immigration really quick and the laws on that. If you'll know this simple thing and go back to the 2000 dirt poor Haitians who ended up in Del Rio, Texas. So they went all the way across the Gulf of America to West Texas and northwestern Mexico. All right. They went all the way across, could have floated right up there just floated right up to the Key West, not far. So they leave Haiti, right? And they go all the way across. Get out of here. Come on, people. That's how gullible Americans are. That's how gullible Americans are. There's no other term for it. That's how gullible Americans are. That 2,000 dirt poor Haitians end up in West Texas. That's the ones who want to argue with you. That's the ones who would dog cuss your grandma and your dog. They'll kick your dog. That's the kind of people you were talking about, right? But they're the ones who say they coexist and they won't. Oh, they're good people. That's the people we're talking about. All right. So, asylum seekers. Now, Clinton's, Hillary, Bill, Obama, Bush, they all were about deportation. But outside of that, just your law alone. When you're seeking asylum, the law says that you seek asylum in the country next to you. So when they tell you that there's Venezuelans, and they're telling you that there's Nicaraguans, and they're telling you that there's Haitians who are trying to come to America, do I have to say any more? If you know where Venezuela is, if you know where Nicaragua is, if you know where Haiti is, we're not the next country over from those people. So see, there's a difference in immigration and migration. That's why President Trump has told you the whole time, he ain't said immigrants. They've been using the term migration. That's why you got to listen and know the terminology. Immigrants is like if you're in Venezuela and you want to become an American, you can go on a computer and do all that. Start the process. A migrant is someone who's saying, hey, my country is, they're terrifying me, they're torturing me, they're doing that, and you're seeking asylum. You got our laws say asylum seekers have to seek it in the country next to you. That's been on paper for years. That's been on paper long before President Trump. Voila. All right. 8 executive orders prove everything as well. Joe, you only have 2 options, ladies and gentlemen, at this point. So there was 2 options, meaning there wasn't options, but there's 2 scenarios that show President Trump why he had to do what he had to do. But now there's only 2 options. You only have 2. Simple. You have 2 options. Either Joe Biden and Kamala and all the patriots, so you know the people out there, y'all know them, I know them, you know them. Oh, Obama's pulling the strings behind the scenes. Okay, let's roll with that. So either Biden, Kamala, Obama, Bill, Hillary, Schumer, Pelosi, Schiff, you name it, all of them. They're either the greatest administration from 2021 to 2025, along with President Trump 2017 to 2021, and what will be 2025 to 2029. All right. They're either the greatest administration known to man, along with President Trump, or option 2. Joe Biden is exactly what I know he is, a puppet in a puppet state in a puppet government, in a government in exile, shadow government, continuity of operations, continuity of government, military occupation, military government, all unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, as you see in Laws and Orders by President Trump. And he's exactly who President Trump says he is. Those of you who've known who Joe Biden is as a senator, right, the real Joe, we all know he's garbage. We all know he's a plagiarist. We all know that. All you got to do is go back and watch the Clarence Thomas trial to see that. He can't even form a sentence. All right? He is dumb as a box of rocks. He is dumber than Rosie O'Donnell's pinky toe and a cement block put together. All right? So you have two options. Because Joe continued 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that are all deporting the illegal migrants, taking back the Panama Canal, the Doge, all right, all that. Every single thing being enforced right now, Joe continued those. Why? Why would Joe Biden continue 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that had a 2-year automatic termination clause on it? They'd have terminated in 2 years. He wouldn't even have to look at them. Just let them automatically. It requires a pen, a paper, and a president to continue executive orders. Executive orders require 0 legislation, ladies and gentlemen. 0. Pen, paper, president. National emergencies have a 2-year automatic clause as prescribed in Codification 1976. Why did Joe continue 8 executive orders that's draining the swamp? Why? So when you hear liberals talk about tariffs out there, the tariffs, President Trump put these tariffs in place in 2018 in the debate with Joe. He said, Joe hasn't removed my tariffs because he can't. There's too much money coming in. So you see all Schumer just a few days ago, quote unquote, the tariffs have done enough damage already. Why didn't Joe and Kamala and Obama, so whoever you are out there, I can boutique this for you. Whichever sliced pie you want, I got a piece for you. Why did Joe, why did Kamala, why did Obama, why did they continue these? Why did they allow President Trump the opportunity to get back in? How did he meet with 12 foreign leaders 13 different times from April 2024 to December? Biden, the real Biden, told Obama about the Logan Act, 18 United States Code, Section 953, private correspondence with a foreign leader. And Obama used that on General Flynn. That was just a 3-star general of the director of the intelligence agency, not the president of the United States, for meeting with a Russian diplomat. So Joe and Kamala, with Democratic control from 2023 to 2021, 2021 to 2023, they had Democratic control of the House and the Senate from 2021 to 2023. How come they didn't revoke every single thing by President Trump? If he's such a threat to democracy, and he's a threat to the Constitution, and he's violating laws and orders, then why did they leave the laws and orders in place? Why would they give President Trump the opportunity if they thought he was going to win? Why did they give him the opportunity to walk right back in and take all these executive orders with national emergencies, laws and orders they never revoked? Obama's the one who declared the national emergency in an executive order for Yemen. All these libtards out there saying that President Trump is a threat to the... Look at there, you Republicans, conservatives. You said, y'all bragged this whole time that President Trump never started the war. Now he's bombing Yemen. 2012, executive order. Obama declared a national emergency with Yemen. Hong Kong, President Trump, the Panama Canal, President Trump, executive order 13936. Executive order, July 14, 2020, in that first 180 days. Hong Kong, national emergency. That's one of the 8 executive orders that Joe continued. President Trump told you, The first time he told you, he said China controls the Panama Canal. The next time he said it's really Hong Kong. What were the Netherlands doing over in Hong Kong recently? Netherlands military. Why are the Netherlands operating off the coast of Colombia? Colombia, one of those 22 joint partners in the counter-narcotics operation. Hong Kong. That's one of the 8 that Joe continued. Now we're taking the Panama Canal. So Joe is a part of it. So again, one of 2 options. Either Joe, Kamala, Obama, Schumer, Schiff, Pelosi, all of them. They had Democratic control of the House and the Senate 2021 to 2023. So all these libtards out there saying that President Trump's a threat and all this other stuff. We're taking back the Panama Canal. Oh my God, we're taking back the Panama. They continued the executive order with the national emergency. It never terminated. It's still in place to this day, as we speak, April 13th, 2025. Which one is it? They're either a part of it, or President Trump is 100% correct on Joe and Kamala and all the deep state. Which one is it? You only have 2 options. You only have 2. Doge, all the libtards. Obama, Executive Order 13576, 2011, government waste, eliminating government waste. There's your executive order right there for that. 2014, he established United States Digital Service. 2014, he's got videos on YouTube about this, eliminating government waste. President Trump renames it, but before that, guess what took place? The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Biden. Guess what's in there? The funding for Doge. United States Digital Service. President Trump renamed it for a reason. He renamed it because they can't take credit for it. They established it, yes. But when he renamed it and he's enforcing it, he invoked it, implementation, right? Put it in enforcement. They can't take credit for it. If they do, the more the merrier. That validates everything in another different way. It's already validated, but it will validate it in a different way. Because the only people who can exonerate President Trump is going to be the left. It ain't me. It's not you. It's not a general. It's not any kind of big name. It's not going to be any celebrity. It's not a Republican celebrity. Not a Republican anything. Not a conservative anything. Not a patriot anything. Not a military anything. It's going to be the left that exonerates President Trump. The white flag of surrender. Don't be surprised. I've already told people who I told you who I think it's going to be. Don't be surprised. And let me tell you how libtards tell on themselves. So there's been someone that I've already shown to the world. They're a traitor. They're a traitor to the military. They're all these things. It's already been shown to the world. Already been shamed. But this is why liberals, they speak too soon, right? And their hatred it gets out in front of them because they're showing what the reflection of their heart. They're showing what's in their heart, dark. Hate, jealousy, whatever it could be. There's a lot of factors, right? But this person out there was trailing me all over X at a time period. And then I called them out, exposed. I said, gotcha, caught you, gotcha, right? And, oh boy, they retaliate because they got caught. When people get caught, they retaliate. They either run, hide in a hole, or they retaliate. They bark, right? They're narcissists. So, this person trailed me all over the internet for a while there, 2 years ago. And they were going on like different people, patriots, good hardworking patriots, trying to get the word out, sharing, what I show and, the reason why I have books and #1 bestsellers and all this other stuff, right? They're on there saying that presidents, he said, oh, he's absolutely wrong. Presidents continue executive orders all the time. Thank you for the validation, dummy. See, the hatred and the jealousy for publicity 2 years ago, now that Joe continued 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies, and President Trump is the president who told you on the State of the Union, what did he tell you? All you needed was a new president. You've had new presidents in history. You've had a new president every 4 years, except for the ones who got a double, right? You've had that term, that saying he said, that what he said was a lot bigger than what you. Oh no. It means that you've seen a complete eradication of the deep state, the global alliance. When he said all you needed was a new president, he meant a president who does what? Military came in, military government, military occupation, continuity of operations, continuity of government, a complete clean out, and then President Trump enforcing the laws. See, President Trump, again, all they had to do was enforce the laws on paper. That exposed 95% of the deep state right there, because they had done what through the American people through the years? Hansel and Gretel, throw them a crumb. And then the few little resistance that we've always done, and there's a lot of great patriots who've shown resistance throughout history, but not enough in this level. When the little bit of resistance would pop up, what would lawmakers do? What would career politicians do? Well, it says right here in the law. See, and it quelled all the other people who might have risen up. There we go. But what did people do? People go, well, I don't know the law. And they're the lawyer, though. They know the law better than I. And the ones who had the resistance, and then the average American went along hook, line, and sinker with all these people who said, well, the law says right here. And us that always knew it, we're going, no, quit listening to them. So President Trump, and what you've been witnessing, is the complete flippage, enforcement of every law to the T from top to bottom. So you're going to have some, obviously, retaliation. Because what? It's exposing all these rats. It's exposing all the lips. It's exposing all the career politicians. It's exposing all of their BS. Right? So this dumb idiot, the one who, and he wasn't the only one, but these liberals, they actually end up proving the whole point. Same thing with the cannons. There was someone last year, an Army veteran now, all right, I put quotes around it because you never know, but this supposedly was an Army veteran. It's so funny. They come on there. I finally caught Jonhson lying. Well, I'm like, okay, you can be wrong and you can be 100% wrong and not be a liar. That's another term. Republicans, conservatives, patriots, y'all got to quit using that term. Do not use that term. That term in this context is a sign of ignorance. All right? Don't use the term, oh, you're a liar. Don't say that. Say that's incorrect, that's false information or false, whatever. Use those terms. All right, that's how you gain people over, because say, look, you don't have to like it, but this is the law. This is what's going on. All right, this is it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to love it. But you need to know this. Even if you're a resistance of it, you need to know this. This is what's taking place. But then when they get to reading it, they're going to realize, whoa, this actually helps everybody. Yes. So you can't fight fire with fire sometimes. You never. You got to fight it with water, right? What puts out fire? Water. So don't get in there and do that with them, right? So, it's so funny because of the validity that's happened everywhere. I can take a swig. This Army veteran says, oh, Derek Johnson, why? No. So, the cannons. Now, if you were sitting on the fence back here, let's do it again. Let's do the fence again. If you were sitting on the fence and or you were like 97%, 98%, whatever it was, because you didn't have a sandwich. I call it a sandwich or a bookend. A lot of people don't have bookends anymore because people don't read. But a bookend, meaning the old school bookends where you have an end in your books and your end. Now you have a bookend. You have a sandwich. All right. But I kept showing people over and over. Even had a veteran that I'll be with in a couple weeks in Miami. A veteran wanting to argue over cannons. And I'm like, dude, listen to the context. Listen. Listen to the context. I didn't say Joe Biden's dead. I've never said he's dead. I tell people all the time, listen. I said by optics. This is what they showed on January the 20th, 2021. On January the 20th, 2021, everybody's heard this, most everybody. But on January the 20th, 2021, the only cannons shown all day long for Joe were 3 at Arlington. But then it's the first time in United States history on January the 20th, key day, January the 20th, they've shown 2 sets of cannons. They showed the 3 with Joe and 4 with President Trump. First time in history. Not to mention, none of the National Guard saluted Biden. All right. There's 2 different screen sets that day. The sky looks a certain way in one setting, and there wasn't a commissioned officer present, which that's Army Regulation 600-25, 2-3 cannon salutes. That's Army. There wasn't an officer present for Joe's quote-unquote cannons. The soldiers were standing around, moving around. Go watch. Go type into YouTube. Go type in the official presidential salute battery, the 3rd Infantry Regiment. Watch how they operate. It's amazing. And I mean, all of our military, we're good at marching. But there's certain groups out there, especially them, it's finesse. It's the most beautiful thing to watch, that they all operate that way with those cannons and how they shoot, how they fire, and when they have a misfire, how quick they are with the misfire. Go watch it. We don't move around like they were moving around. They were waiting on the cue. Plus, I'm not fat shaming people. Sorry if you're overweight. But these people that they showed with the cannons were what we call in the military can't make tape. If you put a tape around them, they can't make tape, meaning they're too fat. All right? They can't make tape. Now, some are grandfathered in the military. People that know that, that's fine. But not all at one time and not on that day. The odds of that wouldn't be there. So there's that. Amazing Grace was performed for Joe. In the Army Memorial at Fort Leonard Wood, you can go on a memorial page and see on the dot mill page, they normally use bagpipes, but still, Amazing Grace is played. They use all these optics that day to show you that Joe was not being inaugurated whatsoever. So this Army veteran that came at me last year, these jealous people, these idiots and liberals, all in one, sometimes they're all together, sometimes they're separate, they always expose themselves. They always tell on themselves. Because time always takes care of everything. Everybody knows this. Time takes care of everything. When you're consistent and you have the proof, it's going to come out somewhere. And so that's what's taking place with old dummy. Talking about executive orders. Oh, the president just continue executive. Well, what do you say now? What do you say now? So you're a President Trump supporter now? Because you hate, the one I know hates President Trump. This person who followed me around loathes and hates. So, what do you think about that now? Do they just continue executive orders? See how dumb you look now? See how dumb people look when they just say that stuff? See how dumb it was for publicity and whatever else they were seeking? See how dumb they look now? They actually validated me. So see, the very person they hate and they're jealous of, they end up validating me even more. So see what happens? You know? So, now, this Army veteran said, oh, I caught Jonhson line, said that the cannons are always shown at Arlington. How come Arlington's never been shown the cannons ever on Inauguration Day? How? How come the cannons every inauguration that you've seen from 2017 to Richard Nixon, 1969, on YouTube, how come all the cannons they've ever shown are in the National Capital Region, not at Arlington? How come they've never shown the cannons at Arlington until Joe? And then President Trump, there's your bookend, there's your sandwich, there's your 2 ends. How come President Trump on January the 20th, 2025, he did it in reverse for a reason. Validation, but also focal point. He reversed it for a reason. He took your focal point and put it the day before. He didn't go to Arlington after he was inaugurated. All right? And I put quotations around inauguration, meaning we're still in the military government. It's a military operation. All right? It's not your normal constitutional government. This whole operation, 45-47. So now you have a bookend. He put the Arlington Memorial on the 19th, the day before the inauguration. Did you see the cannons on that? No cannons. So see, this person's whole argument was that the cannons are always at Arlington because that's what Arlington is. Well, yeah, if you went to Arlington and you got to witness a general being buried or a foreign leader who gets buried there, you will see the cannons, right? But Inauguration Day is different. That's why the veteran who tried to argue with me, it's different. These people are so jealous and or they want to be right, they want to be the face, they want to be the name so bad, they end up hurting themselves in the long run for not listening. So thank y'all, right? Thank you, dummies. All you do is validate daily. And you hurt the people that you're trying to gain. You actually push them away. And they end up right over here because I'm the only one who's consistent. Under President Trump, where I'm supposed to be, I'm consistent. Because I'm operating with what he's operating with. I'm doing exactly what a veteran's supposed to do. By oath. The only cannons shown all day long for Joe, January the 20th, 2021, were at Arlington. The only cannons for January the 20th that's at Arlington is for Joe. So however you want to twist this and flip it, the only cannons, double cannons shown in United States history is January the 20th, 2021. So this person who said that, oh, the cannons are always there, they said this before January the 20th, 2025. And then January the 19th, President Trump said Arlington, you didn't see any cannons. Where are they? And every other president they've shown go to Arlington, you don't see the cannons. Obama, Bush, where are the cannons? Where are they at? And they've never really shown a lot of that. When you go to YouTube, ironically, they don't show a lot. They don't show the presidents go to Arlington. That's only been in recent years that they've shown that. So there's that. All right. Which is even better because now you're condensed down to only a few. And you don't have to go research, but it's so funny. So the only cannons shown all day long for Joe Biden were 3 at Arlington. Go to Arlington National Cemetery.mil, your official Arlington site. The 3-volley salute is not to be confused with the 21-gun salute. The 3-volley salute seen a sense or heard another sense at Arlington is a military funeral honors. But see, it wasn't just a funeral for Joe. It was a funeral for the monarchy, the deep state, the global alliance, the federal corporation, 28 United States Code, section 3002. Go to number 15 in that. 28 USC, 28 United States Code, section 3002, bullet point 15, United States Federal Corporation. See, not everything in our laws and orders are good, but it validates everything. So, liberals end up sometimes validating things. Because what's taking place right now in front of your eyes, no matter if you're still 97, 98%, hopefully you'll be at 100 after this with all the validations that's just taking place this week with that one key executive order by President Trump and the Title 32, all right, plus the Title 10 that's also listed in it, Title 50, Title 18. There's all your titles. Your Logan Code, your Logan Act is in your 18 United States Code. All right, so that's Title 18. Your Title 50, there's your War Powers Act, and all that was in that one order. So when it's listed in one order, it applies to everything else because it's there. All right, you can't have one without the other, and it's a rolling operation. All right, so what special operations have done to the liberals, and they don't realize it yet. That's why there's a few that can just absolutely. You'll see me if you follow me on X. I'm always on liberals' pages. And I'm going, okay, well, if the tariffs are a threat, if President Trump's a threat to democracy and a threat to the Constitution and all these other, then why did your dude keep the tariffs in place? All right, so I play devil's advocate there to get them thinking, but also to get the people in the comment box going, man, I don't need to follow these idiots anymore. This person, man, that's how you win people over. So there's a few things that it's like the tariffs, Doge, the Logan Act, and then your 8 executive orders. Those things alone show liberals are atrocious, and the military operations, special, have flipped the narrative on them. So now, if they truly believe that, then they're supporting all the things they never said they would support. And also, they're not coexisting. All right. It also destroys their whole electric vehicle narrative. All right. If they're destroying electric vehicles, then they really don't support electric vehicles. All right. So there's that. There's a little things you can do to them. You can say, hey, so if you're a Republican, conservative, and call yourself a patriot, or call yourself 1776 anything, and you want to argue all of what I've presented, and I present daily and weekly and monthly, you look just as atrocious as them. And you don't want to do that. Because I'm validated daily, weekly, monthly, and it's been yearly now. And I wouldn't be here if it weren't for women, female, lady patriots. They have already validated me. And I'm going to tell you what, there's some women out there, y'all need, you need every award known to man. You need every decoration known to man, because y'all have been some real dang fighters. Some real go-getters, and just, you take resistance better than anybody. Because when you know you're right, ladies, y'all know, when you know you're right. When y'all know you're right, there ain't nobody going to argue that. Right? Every guy knows that. Because guess where you end up, guys? You end up on a cold couch. Because a woman going to come in there and go, you ain't getting no blanket either. No way, Jose. No, you're not going to be comfortable on the couch. Nope, you were wrong. You didn't admit you were wrong. You're sleeping on the couch. You ain't getting no blanket. You ain't even getting no pillow either. Give me that pillow. What do you think? Yeah, this ain't going to be no comfortable ride. This is going to be like a prison for you. And you ain't getting none either. So don't you come in here and try to talk about you will come in the room later. Nope, the door's going to be locked. All right? So, guys, if you got that testosterone out there, you still want to beat your chest, and you talking down to your ladies, you talking down to your spouses because you were in the military, it's going to look worse on you if you were in the military and she wasn't. Because, again, this is not about what you did in the military. This ain't about how many countries you went to. This ain't about that. This is a whole different aspect of military. And when the woman goes and reads, and when the woman goes and studies, and when the woman sees all of what she knows, and the ones that follow me, it's going to make you look worse. So you probably want to tone down on that attitude and tone down on how you talk to her, because, again, a woman ain't going to forget that. They ain't going to forget it. You ought to know this by now. Women don't forget anything. They don't forget. That's why I'm single, because I'm actually the polar opposite. Like the ladies are going like, I don't know how he would remember everything on me. Like, I can't get him, like, cause I do. I can go like, hey, 17 years ago, you were wearing this dress, and you were saying this, and you were drinking this mimosa, and you said this, and you said that, and blah, and you can be like, what the heck? This is my job and role. I'm supposed to remember stuff that you did 17 years ago, right? That's me, right? So guys, make it a challenge, like make it like, do it like the water boy. Remember when he was studying, water boy. Remember when he was studying and they played the game where your wife, come on, spouses and partners, right? Every time you get something correct, she takes off a piece of clothing or something like that. Yeah, have some fun with it, right? Come on, guys, get with the program here. All right, especially you veterans out there. All right, you don't want me to kick you in the butt, then let your wife kick you in the butt. That's going to be the worst one that's going to hurt. Because she's going to remember that you didn't know. And she's going to remember that you talked to her the way you talked to her. All right? And that's probably why you ain't been getting no water, if you know what I mean. Because of the way you've been talking to your wife and your spouse and your partner. All right? So, single guys. All you single guys out there, that's probably why you can't get no date. Because you can't have an intellectual conversation with a real woman. All right, a real woman that ain't on the internet looking at the same poses every time. Look at my butt. Same photo of her butt 47 times on some of these chicks on Instagram. It's like same photo, same angle. if you're going to do it, give another angle, right? So that's what's wrong with America. We have so many self-absorbed people. We have too many people who just want attention for all the wrong reasons. All right, and I'm like Tom Homan now, and I've met him. I love him. All right, and from what I know, I think he might love me, but in the right kind of way, manly kind of way, in a patriot kind of way. But I'm like Tom Homan. When he walked out at CPAC this year, he said, I'm going to tell you what, straight out the gate, I don't give a you-know-what if you don't like me. I don't give two, he said the word, but I won't say it for today because today's Sunday. But I don't give a, he said there's going to be hit pieces in the paper tomorrow. I don't give a I don't care. And if I was on the last hill in the United States of America, or wherever I'm at on this country, this world, this planet, I will die on this hill. If I was on the last hill in the world by myself and I knew what I know, I don't care what you say about me. I don't care what you write about me. I don't care what you're talking about me. I don't care. Because I've been validated. And it ain't about me. It ain't. It's about us. It's about we the people, about us the patriots. But I've been validated. And today, this video alone, this is the best one to show your friends and family if they're still arguing with you or if they're on the fence and they're trying. But the New York State Senate letter to the president, the New York National Guard, active in 2023 with an annual report that's out by the Army.mil. Those two alone validate everything that I've outlined. And there will be more to come, sure. There will be another video in a few days or a week or whenever that's going to validate even more. But this alone, complete validation. And then the lady patriots, the women patriots, the female patriots, whatever they are. Again, I know so many women across this country who come from all backgrounds, all ethnicities, all nationalities, all different religions, all different spiritualities, because sometimes people separate that because of doctrine and spiritual. All right, all different spiritualities, all different preferences, all different everything. There's no way. Again, same thing with President Trump, and this is the main thing. President Trump, once one gay person votes for President Trump, it negates everything that is homophobic. Once one African American votes for him, he can't be racist. Once one anything that's not his, what people would call standard, so white, male, Anglo-Saxon, white, whatever. Once any one person from every category votes for President Trump, it negates that he's, and there's multiple from all these different organizations and all these different RSTLNE, you want to buy a vial pat, LGB, whatever, blah, 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 all that. Once every one, and there's multiple ones out of all these that have voted for President Trump. Because at the end of the day, all that matters is this. You're a good human being. If you do what's right from the beginning, and you do what's right in the middle, and you do what's right all the time, you won't have to worry about remembering something or needing some kind of acquittal or exoneration or whatever it is. If you're being a good, decent human being the whole way through, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. So a lot of people got to get out of the judgmental mode and got to get into the real world and go, look, this is an operation for humanity. If you want to believe this, great. If you want to believe in God a certain way, great. But that's not important right now from the standpoint of what is in operation. The whole operation is to protect everybody's belief system, whatever that may be. That's how the military operates. If you're gay and Buddhist and I saw a train was about to hit you or whatever it is, whatever it could be, I'm coming to save you. Because if I have the capability and I can physically help you, I'm going to help you. I don't care what you look like, what you talk like, what you believe in. If something's going to do you harm or someone's going to do you harm, I'm saving you if I have the capability to save you. That's how humanity is saved. Then you let other things work itself out. And too many people are trying to nitpick all this thing. And, they're a Jew, or they're this, or they're that. Don't worry about that. Be a good, decent human being. Do unto others. Then, mind your own business. Clean up your own backyard. If everybody will make that reciprocal, it solves everything. It solves everything. It really does solve it. Because when everybody's practicing that, you won't care if someone talks bad about you. You'll say, hey, that's negative. Move on. Some people you just can't help. Move on. Right? But when you engage in that with them and you get to throwing dirt with them, you're just doing what they want you to do. All right? Move on. Don't worry about them. Let them have a bad day. Let them be negative. Let them be bitter. Let them be that. But what's going on right now is a complete resetting of all that. Because these bureaucrats in their operation, they wanted that. They wanted you to argue with your neighbor. They wanted you to fight with your neighbor. They wanted to pin groups against each other because they're up here. They create a problem they already have a solution to. Remember that. I went away from that for a while. They create a problem they already have a solution to. They go over here and start a fire. Then they run around here, get you fighting, get everybody fighting. And they run around over here and say, hey, what y'all fighting for? And they're the ones who started it. They create a problem they have a solution to. They took race, they took religion, and they took politics. And they pinned everybody against our core values in America. That's what they've done. And guys like me are saying, look, I don't care if you're gay, Buddhist, atheist, whatever you are, black, white, mixed, I don't care. Mixed, interracial marriage, I don't care. Whatever you are, I don't care. If you're not hurting somebody, harming somebody, great. They had to clean it out from the top down this time. It should have been from the bottom up, but because so many people look like an ant bed that's been hit by a lawnmower, because of that, and ants going everywhere and they're trying to do, but at least ants work together. But the whole analogy is that this is what it looks like down here. Liberals and Republicans and Democrats and this and that, all the titles and my resume that and this, that, and other, and this title and this and that, all that. It had to be done top down this time around by key components of the military, generals, world leaders, and saying, hey, they had to seize control of it, and that's what's taking place. So, it's going to be beautiful when it's all said and done, and there's going to be a said and done moment as far as like the celebrations, just like Memorial Day. President Trump said Memorial Day this year is a marker. Well, Memorial Day this year is May 26th. Guess what May 26th was in our history? May 26th, 1783 was when our founders celebrated the end of the Revolutionary War. And they called it the Great Jubilee Day. So there's so much that's been divinely reestablished by God. You can't make it up. So when you hear people out there calling President Trump the Antichrist and the Special Operations Command, that's Illuminati. No, it's not. No, it's not. There's so much in laws and orders that I can't cover in one sitting that all Special Operations Command. That's the spearhead. That's all that is. And then what you do is what President Trump and God first. God, all these dates that they have put all these laws and orders in, some of it just fell on these days. Some of it they did plan, but some of it just fell this way. It just worked out perfect where, certain day is on a Monday or certain day is on a Friday, right? And it just works perfect, all right? So all these dates are biblical, but also the symbolizations of it. When people say, and the Bible does say symbolization would be their downfall, but the Bible also says what? That what man makes for evil, God can make for good. All right, so if you believe in God, you got to believe in God first, not man. You got to believe in God. God says, I'm not the author of confusion. Well, if he's not the author of confusion, then he's got to be the what? Author of completion. Author of wholeness. Author of wholesome as well. Right? So if you believe in God, you believe in all of it. And the Bible says that too. It says it's better not to know than to know and to deny. It also says in the Word as well that any man who what? Adds to the words of this book will have plagues added to them. Any man who takes away from the words of this book, name shall be taken away from the book of life. There's a scripture for everything. So you either believe or you don't. And it's the same way with President Trump. You either got to believe in President Trump, the special operation, unconventional warfare, laws and orders, because they all outline it, or your other option. You believe that Joe and Kamala and Obama and Pelosi and Schiff and Schumer and all of them, Romney, Ryan, your rhinos, you got to believe that they're all the greatest operation as well. You have two options. And then it's plain, my favorite saying, it's plain and simple. Don't color the water. Make it simple. Keep it simple. I know people don't like this term, but it was a term actually used for good. They used it. It said, keep it simple, stupid. But anyway, it's not calling someone stupid. It's just saying, keep it stupid, simple. It's what it should have said. But they don't. So it's like, keep it simple. Don't make it complicated. And a lot of people do. But what's happening is a lot of patriots are still going out looking at all these different names and faces, and you're like, I don't know who to listen to. I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe. Because none of those people you're listening to work with a foundation. 99.9% of them weren't in the military. The ones that were are just either regurgitating and or clickbaiting something. So the book's been validated. I don't have one sitting nearby. I've got them in my other room. No, I do. I got one right here. I forgot. This is part 2. Forgot I had this one here. Part 2. This is a big boy, so right, this is part 2 for a reason, and so but it's a lot of photos. And I've been ahead of President Trump in this, in a good way, not ahead of him in the not giving the missions, but this was put out January the 8th on Elvis's birthday. Well, I put it out for pre-sale. It was printed later, but still. I've been ahead of President Trump and everything. Everything's been validated in here. So when you know the print date and you read it, you're like, whoa, right? But again, you got the two options with that. You can read the laws and orders in place and study that and know that it's a blueprint, chronological order, and I'm the only one with the blueprint of that chronological order, or you can still watch everything in real time and be all in your feels and your emotions, right? Because it's not real time. It's all been strategically planned. All of it. Every bit of it. I can't stress that anymore. Every single bit of the whole thing. Even to this day, what you're watching. President Trump's giving us markers. He's giving you markers. May, Memorial Day. I'm thinking of marching in the military. May, and then 2026, July the 4th. So just, you got to hang on. Like the military tells people, it says, look, embrace the suck. And then also, hurry up and wait. Enjoy every day along the way. We're still living life. Life still goes on. You need to put down the phone a lot more. Talk to your mama, talk to your daddy, talk to your children. Whatever you have in your life, you need to pick up the phone, FaceTime them, call them. All right? And put priorities first and foremost again in your life. That's what you got to do. Get closer with your family. Get closer with your friends. Not because of doomsday or nothing like that. Just because you're living life and you're not going to get these days back. All right? And too many people are thinking there's going to be this day that the whole world just stops and stands still, and there's going to be this massive Dead Sea Scroll that's longer than Obamacare that's going to have everything. I've already got that. I just put it over here. I've already got that. Nothing new is going to come out that you can't know already. It's already there. Now, there's validations, but the foundationals are there. So everybody would be in their best interest to enjoy the ride. Enjoy this. This ain't going to happen again. And you're already through the worst of it. You through the worst of it. So congratulate yourself. You're already through the worst of it. All right? I can't do my normal routine, but President Trump's the one who took my routine. I'm the one that did the penguin walk on the stage. That was me. Everybody who was on the Truth Tour 2020, y'all know I did that. President Trump started doing that late 2023, doing the penguin walk. That's the worst part. You've already seen all the worst part. For the people who thought that was real, the part that people thought was real, the bad part, was Joe pooping in his diapers and, tripping on the stage. If that would have been real time and real America, that would have been embarrassing. But it wasn't. It's all part of an operation. And it was a point. Oh, man, I would love to have been that person going in the earpiece. Hey, don't fall going down the stairs. Fall going up. That's a lot more epic. Walk on this beach. Walk on the beach with finesse. Get on the flat stage and trip. That's how gullible Americans are. Biden on a sandy beach, walking on the sand. Anybody's ever been to the sand? It's hard to walk in the sand with the little ruffles, right? Come on, people who grew up near the beach. Come on, where you at? They got old Joe walking on the sand like it's nothing. He gets on a flat stage, trips. He falls going up the stairs, not down the stairs. That's how gullible Americans are. I mean, that's what baffles me. That at the end of the day, that's what baffles me. It's like, okay. But then I got to back up to prove it. I say, all right, I got the validity that you're watching. And then the ones that baffle me even more are the ones that claim to be President Trump supporters, but then turns around and says, oh, well, I don't know about all that. That sounds like a conspiracy theory. Military laws and orders are not conspiracy theories. I had this specially made for me by a fellow in Nashville. Military laws and orders are not conspiracy theories. So anyone who says this is a conspiracy theory, what I talk about are crapping and pooping on every memorial grave in this nation of soldiers. So anyway, validation, daily, weekly, now monthly, and now yearly, but it's to be expected because it's just military law. It's all it is. All right, so it's validity for the ones that don't know it, but it's really just straight up procedure for people who know it. All right, so, we'll see what happens over the next couple weeks with Easter coming up this weekend. God never ceases to fail to show up and show out at key moments and things. Even though he's been showing up and showing out, this whole operation is godly, it is divine, it is biblical, before it's monumental, before it's historical. All right, so, just hang on, keep reading, keep studying. All right, message me on all my accounts. These are my official account. I'm going to say it here. This is me. I have to do that. All right, it's me. All right, I'm not going to show you how white I am. I'll show you a little bit. All right, it's me. No mask. I'm white as white. All right, of course, most masks would come down here anyway, right in this region. But if I did that, you'd have people out there starting OnlyFans accounts in my name and it'd be fake, and then I'd have to defend that. I'm like, no, that's not me. And I had to tell my mom what OnlyFans is. I'm like, no, I don't have an OnlyFans account. All right, it's me. All right, it's me. Linktree, LINK.EE/1776 Nation. I had another message come in today of someone who got scammed. I do not have QFS or anything like that. Wallet, I don't talk like that. That's not me. There are hundreds of fake accounts. It's flattering in one way, but the worst part of it is they're scamming and frauding people. So it's like a catch-22. All right. My official accounts are Linktree, LINK_TR_EE. The period goes between the R and the first E. /1776 Nation. Those are my official accounts. Those are my only accounts. All right. I have some backup pages that I've started. That's there if I need them. But other than that, I'm not requesting anybody anything on there. Nothing. I don't use those yet. But some people have discovered my other Instagram account that I started just in case. You never knew. I didn't know what was going to take place, what they were going to do with me. But other than that, the Linktree, my official account. So be careful who's messaging you. All right, be careful with that. All right, so there's a lot of people out there that's getting a lot of stuff, and it's not me. It's just not me. And I hate it for people. There's people who have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I wouldn't give you $5 if I didn't know you. All right, if I knew you and you were hurting, I'd help you out. Maybe, depending on what it is. I'd clarify. But I know someone that wrote in they lost $100,000. That's hard for me to believe. That's hard. That's heartbreaking. I mean, but anyway, it's the world we live in, unfortunately. Social media, AI is gonna be a whole other ball game, y'all. It ain't. It's oh Lord have mercy, God have mercy. It's not pretty. But again, that's why. As you get now, I guess AI will eventually do that too. They'll have sound effects and they'll have. So anyway, well, we'll see y'all soon. I see my internet.